Round 2 of the FIA World Endurance Championship for 2018-19 is the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The great race in its 86th running starts at 3 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. It is now just approaching 9:30 in the evening, Central European time. That is 19:30 Greenwich Mean Time. Wherever you are across the planet, thank you for joining us. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me Julian Porter and Alok Minish, ready to get through the remaining 2.5 hours of qualifying. The reason that we're not in a final 2-hour session is the previous 7 to 9 p.m. 2-hour session was cut short by a red flag. Big accident for the Villorba course LMP2 car at the second chicane on the Mulsanne Straight. And first chicane on the Mulsanne Straight, and the red flags are brought out for barrier repairs. So that missing time goes into the final hour, and the guillotine will fall at midnight tonight. We return the highways to public usage at 12:30 p.m. So getting ready for the cars to head out on track. 2.5 hours, and the question is, Alan McNish, are we going to see anybody go quicker than they did right at the beginning qualifying at this time yesterday?
Well, certainly the track conditions are very different to where they're a lot cooler. We saw in the first session that there was quite a few mistakes, people struggling with, as we see Andy Prio here coming into Tetra Rouge. That was actually just because he dropped a wheel on the outside, spun into the barriers backwards, did quite a bit of damage. But amazingly, the Ford guys got that car back out within about 25-30 minutes, and they were on their way again. Here the LMP2 spinning coming through Porsche. If that had been last year, that would have been an almighty accident for that car. And then Conway in the Toyota coming up into Dunlop to start a lap, just locked up the fronts. A little bit of a difference in temperature, front to rear brakes, and he locked up. And so the conditions, I don't think, were fantastic earlier on. The fact that this session is starting 30 minutes earlier is a benefit, though, because the light, it's all very overcast here. The clouds have been out and things. But if it started at 10 o'clock, then it would be a little bit too dark. And so, therefore, I think it is a possibility in the next 30 minutes. Porsche here coming into Indianapolis, and it's this impact now that's the big one. That car took a fairly heavy impact on the left-hand side.
Yeah, he drove back to the pits, but they were worried that there might have been damage unseen underneath. Broken suspension on the curb on a really quick lap from Nico Lapierre, who was trying to improve on yesterday's best. Hit the first curb, broke the suspension, and thereafter he was just a passenger. It's not that second strike, it was the first one that actually broke that right rear corner.
Well, he didn't tap the curb, did he, really? He jumped on the whole
absolutely.
car onto it. Now, that's the Ford chicane. It's the final corner, so if you are on a lap, you can see the right rear tyre just flopping around there. But he has definitely hit it pretty hard. Yeah. And you do want to get up onto the curbs there because it shortcuts the chicane and it makes it a little bit faster.
And that on the right-hand side, look at the barrier damage there, and then the debris field. Debris field is easily cleared up. Down there on the left-hand side by the tyre wall, the Villorba Corsa LMP2 car, driver Giorgio Senna Giotto stepped out of the wreckage and walked away, so he's perfectly okay, but they're going to have to rebuild that car to get it into the race. The doors are down, they'll do no further running tonight, and so hopefully they'll have all their drivers qualified. If they don't, I'm sure they'll apply, because they should all be able to race if they claim for force majeure. So that car we won't see any further. Hopefully everybody else who had problems will be ready to go back out. You can see the chrome blue of one of the two Ginetta cars down there, run by TSR Manor. And the two Ginettas racing, well, hopefully starting a race for the very first time, Alan. They came to Spa but didn't really turn a wheel in anger. So this will be the first time we get to see them, hopefully starting the greatest endurance race in the planet.
Yes, and they both went a little bit quicker than they did yesterday, and the lap times are, you know, getting up towards where they need to be. It's just really for them, I think it's lap time, isn't it? They need laps. And
crucially, actually, the number of laps, looking at the number 6 car that Ollie Rowland was driving at the flag, that's now completed 30 laps compared to 47 of the Toyotas, but compared to only 28 for the SMP Racing Dallara that's third quickest, so it's getting some laps in.
Yeah, but it's also yesterday and, you know, the pre-test as well.
Just seeing on the bottom of the screen now, and the session is declared a night session. For new viewers, what is a night session? What do you do differently when they say it's declared a night session?
The drivers have to do, and every driver on the grid to participate in the race, they've got to do a total of 5 laps in what is qualified the night session. So that was from 10 o'clock until midnight last night, and from now until midnight tonight. Now, that's 5 laps. That means it's 3 timed laps. So you go out the pits, you can do 3 timed laps, and then you're in lap, and that qualifies you to be able to go into the race. On the occasion that a driver doesn't, for whatever reason, they can apply as force majeure to the stewards, but it's up to the stewards' discretion whether they actually compete in the race. Now, the reason is that you've got to get used to it at night. It was one of the things that a rookie that was here last night that spoke to us, he said that it was actually quite daunting in the night because he'd driven here in the dry, in the daylight, he'd done the pre-test and everything else, but my goodness, when it got to night time, it's completely different. That was a guy called Jenson Button.
I was just about to say, I'm sure that was Jenson Button, wasn't it, who said that? So
he's got a bit of experience in racing, just not round this circuit.
Well, the same is very much the case for Fernando Alonso. Both rookies, both hugely experienced. Juan Pablo Montoya, a rookie here as well. Tony Kanaan, the Indy 500 winner, starting only his 2nd race here. You know that some of them have raced in Daytona, some of them have not done endurance racing before. And it is different, you know, Jenson particularly pointed out how many cars are out there. He's been in a formula where 20 is the limit, and we've got 60 here. All right, the track's a lot longer, but you're never not in traffic.
And there's a lot of them out on an out lap now. There's a yellow already at Marshall Post 11, but a lot of them out on track now. So, Alan, you were just talking about now is the time potentially to do a lap if you're going to try and get it. But there's going to be an awful lot of traffic around.
Yeah, you've got to be one of the first ones, and you saw the Toyota weaving left and right as well as he'd been going down the straight, trying to generate a bit of tyre temperature. And even although the tyres come out of the blankets, then as in the heated blankets, you still need to try to get more temperature into it. And is now popping down. This is the important thing for the Toyota, because if he can jump ahead of those 2 cars before he gets to Porsche, then he's got the control of the track. He's got the ability to have as good a chance of a run of a clear track as possible. And so what he needs to do is to try to make sure he jumps this car ahead of him into Arnage and then blast past the 2 other ones before he gets down into Porsche.
The 33 car, which is the Jackie Chan DC racing car, spun at the first chicane. Yeah, and this number 8 car, who's aboard the 8, Nakajima, as you say, trying to make as much as he can. In that first session, me, Peter, and Duncan went out to the Porsche curves, and Duncan hadn't been out there. Peter had obviously driven the course, the road this morning, and he says it's more scary standing near that tower for the TV than it is actually driving. They're coming at you straight towards you, and then they just go poof, out of sight left.
Yep, they do.
Just saw Juan Pablo Montoya chatting with Zach Brown at United Autosports. There's the link that brought JPM to Le Mans, and flash of headlights in the number 8 Toyota,
hasn't he?
Yeah, he wants to make the break as soon as he can.
Everybody's trying to do the same thing, though. That's the wee problem. It's an LMP2 car ahead of him, so he'll be able to use the hybrid boost coming out of the corner and overtake. It's not the best start to the lap that he's had, but it's not too bad in reality.
Yeah, he'd have wanted really to ideally come out to the final chicanes a lot quicker than he was able to, but he's got clear road in front of him. This is the car that's fastest so far. Kazuki Nakajima is driving. His teammate Kamui Kobayashi is coming up to the line to start his first flying lap shortly. And right behind is one of the LMP2 cars, number 48 machine. That's the IDEC Sport car that is the pole sitter in LMP2 as well. And that has Paul-Luc Chatin at the wheel. And he was saying they hoped that they would get out to have a quick run right at the beginning of the session. And SMP Racing, Stefan Sarazan, showing us a purple first sector, but that he's still also shown us in the pits. So
yeah, but it's actually the Nakajima who's done his car's fastest first sector of the session so far, and the sessions being earlier on from 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock and up till now. So therefore it looks like it is a bit of a lap from Nakajima. Nakajima sitting on the provisional pole as we stand.
And that overnight pole lap did not have a purple first sector. That car was only purple in sector 2 2 or 3, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was sector 2 and 3. But just to be clear, purple means the fastest of anyone in that first sector.
Yeah.
Blue, when we talk about blue in the first sector, it means the fastest the car has gone of any of the drivers.
Yeah.
This is our leading time car in GT Pro. It was an incredible lap last night. No one really seems to know how and where it came from.
Well, it was one lap, that was the thing.
Yeah.
Jimmy Bruni, an Italian in a German car, did one lap in that car, put it on pole by 1.5 seconds, and then went off at the Dunlop chicane starting the second lap. Never came back out again, but nobody got near it.
Where was he racing last year?
In America.
So he's got the one and done in his head from America. Unfortunately, it was more a win it and bin it. You're supposed to come into the pits with all the bits still attached to the car after the quick lap. Second fastest sector for the number 8 Toyota. So this is a quicker lap than the car has done down to the end of the Mulsanne straight.
Did we find out why this didn't go back out last night? Why they put it behind the wall? Was there an engine issue? What was it?
No, same reason with the 94 with that crash at Indianapolis earlier on. Before they sent it back out, they wanted to have a really good look at it, and they went, we haven't got time, we'll do that tomorrow.
A really good look.
It's fastest. Why do you want to send it back out again?
Because you need mileage.
You need mileage, yeah, but you also don't need it to crash even heavier.
Well, yeah, that's very true, but that's down to
It was making
drivers.
a lot of squeaky noises though last night and scraping noises when it was trying to get back onto the track.
Squeaky
That's its engineer there sitting, looking up at the screen. Yeah, thank you. Way back. He's obviously listening to us. This is coming through Porsche, so this is quickest of the car so far, and he did a 3:18 earlier on, so this is a quick lap. That car going into the pits is fine.
On the split, he is 0.9 up, so he's nearly a second faster on this lap than the car has previously gone.
We're looking at a 17.2 to beat yesterday. A 17.2. Wow! 15.377.
That was a big improvement in the final sector. He went from 0.9 up to 1.5 seconds, nearly quicker than he had previously gone.
What was that car doing going towards the pit road? A big lock-up, trying to get out of the way.
Now, we've also had a change from the 2 Rebellion LMP1 cars. They've gone up to 3rd and 4th. The number 3 car, driven by Thomas Laurent, the young French sensation. He's done a 3:18.2 to go 3rd. Bruno Senna's done a 3:19.4 to go 4th. Ahead of SMP Racing, who have not yet left the pits with either of their cars.
Yeah, but look at this Toyota now, this car 7, which is second with Kumi Kobayashi on board, and he's gone slightly quicker in the first sector, only by 23 thousandths of a second, but that's 23 thousand. If he can keep that to the end of the actual lap, then it'll be pole position. Looks like a clear road ahead of him as well. There's no cars in the first chicane. Oh, that was quick into there. You don't usually mount the curb on the right-hand side, but he didn't bounce him offline. Good exit. And so now the long drag, and he's already looking at that one car in the distance, popping up over the top of the hill into the second chicane. He'll be calculating, looking, see which car it is, and I would suspect he's going to be closing on that car that we can see disappearing into the second chicane. But by the time he gets to Mulsanne, just probably coming out of Mulsanne.
Now, it was him that set pole position for Toyota last year, but it's the wrong Toyota.
He missed the line though, didn't he, there?
Yeah, he did. He went in a bit deep into the left and then had to tighten up the right-hander, which wasn't ideal.
Alex Sims, Antonio Felix da Costa watching the GT battle with their BMW. Coming into the pits, in fact, their BMW. New fast lap in GT from the 51 Porsche that goes 4th fastest. So Ferrari, rather, that moves up the order. There's Antonio Felix da Costa. Augusto Farfus was watching him with Alex Sims. They're his teammates. Now, the other Toyota, not a better second sector. He's dropped 2.6 seconds, Kamui Kobayashi, to the pole-sitting sister car number 8. So 7 is not going quicker. No better lap coming out of either Rebellion, but Rebellion at the moment are looking out row 2 of the grid, or as it's known, best of the rest in LMP1. Hauling out of Tertre Rouge and onto the Mulsanne straight with the BMW M8 GTE of Antonio Felix da Costa. There's Augusto Farfus. Farfus wearing glasses now as well as Alex Sims. They're his 2 teammates. Watching the progress, best of the BMWs was in 9th position, and that is the 82 car. It's not a better lap yet, but we have had improvements in GT.
Big lock-up by the Racing for Holland Dallara LMP2 car coming up into Dunlop.
He's just hoping it's going to stop then, isn't it? Not rear-end the car in front.
Yes, he's flat spot the tyre. That's the other thing. He'll be thinking, right, can I get off the brake a little bit, a bit of cadence braking to try and not flat spot the tyres.
Matteo Cairoli in the car that is our AM class pole sitter, and that has not improved, but the cars behind it have. Dempsey Proton's Julian Andlauer, the youngest of the Porsche Junior drivers. 77 is still second, but now only 2/10 behind, having improved. And an improvement too for Francesco Castellacci, Spirit of Race. The Ferrari moves up to third and pushes down the Gulf Porsche to fourth. Ben Barker's gone quicker in that car, but has still lost a spot. So waiting for the number 8 Toyota to pit. So that looks like the battle for pole is over. If 8 is coming in, chances are 7 won't get anything better out of his tyres either.
Do they try and fire another set on? But Kobayashi's probably a man in that car, isn't he?
I wouldn't say you try to do anything there. I think they'll probably hold it, because for them there's limited risk. If you look behind, then the Rebellion of Thomas Laurent's gone and done its fastest lap of the session and the qualifying so far, and it's still, you know, 1 or 8, nearly 9/10 of a second behind.
Yeah.
Is there not a bit of pride there, though? Because look at the qualifying times, 2 seconds between the two Toyotas.
Yeah, there's pride, but it depends whether the team want to give you the tyre or not. They don't mind pride because they've got first and second on the grid.
Well, don't forget, when Kobayashi made that mistake at the chicane, chances are he went, OK, that's it, it's done.
It's gone.
So let's just do the lap, come in, and then get on with our race programme. Because after all, having been here 20 times and failed to win the race, that is much more important than which Toyota is on pole. At the moment, for Toyota team management, Toyota at 1-2, they don't care what the drivers think. They've got the result they want in qualifying. Now they've got to go and get the result they've been striving for 2 decades plus for in the race.
Onboarded, hoping tongue the 38 Jackie Chan DC car, and it's quite a way down. Bearing in mind, this car was right up there. 12th in LMP2.
Crikey me, a bit of a close one as he bounced across the curbs coming out of Dunlop. So now we're on a replay with the Porsche, the Pink Pig, having a run at the 51 Ferrari, quite easily overtaken in straight line speed. Crikey me.
Well, let's find a little bit more about the GT battle. Louise is down with world champion James Collado in the AF Corsa garage.
To the action and the times. Alessandro's putting in a good performance. What more can you give?
Yeah, I mean, that's all we got. He's just had an amazing lap. The car feels really good, and all three of us are really enjoying being back at Le Mans. It's such an amazing track to drive, and obviously you can see it's, other than the Porsche, it's pretty close. And obviously we need to try and find the 2 seconds a lap that we're off. We'll see what we can do with setup, and obviously try and improve our driving and see if we can find those 2 seconds.
And you?
Well, let's hope so. We've got to stay positive. But no, really enjoying it. I've got to go now because I've got to get my helmet on.
OK, I'll leave you to it. The team were just calling him as we were chatting, and there was quite a bit of activity, so we'll let James get in the car.
Yeah, but a bit of activity as well as the Toyota's the quickest in the middle sector. So Kobayashi is 0.1 up in the middle sector as we see the Corvette crossing across the line.
The Corvette, we've got 2 of them there, haven't we?
63.
They're currently down in 13th and 14th. That is a quicker time, but doesn't really improve. Oh, what happened to the Toyota in the 3rd sector there? 91 over an 88.
Yeah, it lost 2.5 seconds in the final sector. That'll be traffic in the Porsche curves. And if that's not the final hurrah for the number 7 car and their chance to pole, I don't know what is. SMP Racing haven't sent either car out yet at all, which is odd because this is not a qualifying session as such. This is also a set the car up for the race session. This is 30 minutes of track time they're never going to get back.
No, it's a qualifying session by definition, so if you do a faster lap time now, then it sticks for the grid. But as you say, then there is still all the preparation for the race to be done in terms of setup, balance, get the drivers through, get them to feel what the track grip is like now, and the track evolution as it's changed from yesterday at 4 o'clock when they first went onto the track until now.
Could they be so happy with the car that they don't need to run for remaining 2.5 hours? Not what we've seen.
No, but not what anybody's, you know, nobody's ever happy with the car.
No, not even at the end of the race. If you've won it, you're happy you've won it. Yes,
I love the green light in the footwell, yeah.
I'm wondering whether that's somebody's actually left a light in there to illuminate things, or whether that is illumination from behind the dash.
I do like the Rebellion car. I think it looks a nice car. The colour scheme's very, very good.
Yeah.
It is, and it sounds great.
Gorgeous looking piece of kit.
It's a quick piece of kit doing a 3 minutes 18.252 round here.
Isn't it though? And this is a normally aspirated non-hybrid car.
I told you I hit the floppy thing on the edge of the track.
There's obviously a technical term for that. Flappy thing on the edge of the track.
Yeah,
it's a little sort of flappy pylon that stops you cutting the curbs too much, which clearly they decided wasn't. It was an optional extra and did cut the curbs too much to hit it.
Clip the curb, and it's obviously done something underneath the car. Matthias Besch heads out in the number 3 car. This is their better placed of the two. Talking to Bruno Senna a couple of days ago before we went out for yesterday's free practice, he said car's got really good balance, lots and lots of grip, but he said that's because it's probably still got too much aero drag, too much aero grip, and the downforce is more than they need probably on this long, fast Le Mans circuit. He said chances are we'll use this, what is low drag bodywork, for the rest of the season in all the sprint races as well.
Yeah, then they must be pretty high on that side of things. But round here, you know, I think you look at the weather forecasting as well and see what's coming up. And it depends whether you can change your bodywork quickly, the nose or the tail of the car. And if you can do that, then maybe there's an option to do something different. If not, you've got to look at the weather.
Do Pro Class cars not have to have white lights anymore?
Well, I was thinking this when I was out on the track. We used to have yellow for the GTE cars, and white for the LMPs.
And then last season they changed it to the Pro classes have white lights and the AM class has yellow lights. So the Pro GTs got white lights. I agree entirely. For us and for fans trackside, yellow lights meaning a GT car, I thought that was a great idea. But it's to help the Pro drivers get through the AM cars quicker. Because
but as you said, but you pointed out yesterday,
that's got green lights.
A lot of the that's only in the pits, I think, because the pink one has pink lights. It has like pinky red lights. But as you pointed out yesterday, most of these AM cars are 2017 cars now, so if they've got white lights, they've got it. But the Gulf Racing car, I'm sure that's now up into second because it was a Dempsey Proton. So Barker doing a good lap in there. Corvette's coming in there, so
that's Garcia coming into the pits. That was the car we were on earlier on in the lap.
Yep, he's pitted. AF Corsa's number 52 Ferrari is still in the pit lane. That car hasn't come out yet.
Corvettes sound nice on track. Porsches do as well.
Well, look, you know, that's one of the great joys of endurance racing, is it's not a spec series where everything goes wee, 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 wee. There's all the different sights and all the different sounds. That was Formula 3.
That was good there, wasn't it?
You know, everything sounds different.
Yeah,
and it's like old-fashioned motor racing.
And you know what it is.
Yes,
you know what it is because of the noise.
Correct. You know, the way you can tell a BDA from a mini engine or whatever, and you can, the way you always used to be able to hear the Panos coming, the way you always used to be able to hear the Mazdas coming, you can hear the Corvette coming.
Some work going in the engine bay on the 66.
Yeah, but it could also be because the rear dampers and things in there, so it could be some damper clicks. They have to take that engine cover off to get in towards the rear suspension if they're doing a ride height change or something in there.
Even just a roll bar adjustment, if he wants a tiny bit more roll stiffness or a tiny bit less, bodywork comes off. Because this thing is, I mean, to get a chance to stand close to this car and see all the sculpture tunnels through it and everything, those rear lights, they're not circular with a solid center, they're circular, they're a tunnel. Air comes out the middle of that. That's a hugely important element of their
it's like a ride height change.
Rear air extraction system. And look at the tunnels that go through. Those buttresses aren't just for style.
But they do look quite cool with their neon lighting down them.
Absolutely superb. Absolutely superb.
Well, that's that car's third in Pro class at the moment.
Yep. The Pro class with green background to their numbers. They've got the green indicator lights down the side. 1 for the first in class, 2 for second in class, 3 for third in class. And you've got orange colours for the GTE AMs, blue for LMP2 like this car, which should be showing 1. No, beg your pardon. It should have been showing 3, should have been showing 2, but it's been pushed down to 4th place, actually. TDS Racing car was second at dinner time. Loic Duval, Al's former Le Mans winning teammate, trying to reinstate them back up towards the top of the pile. They've been beaten by Dragon Speed's number 31 car, which is the Mexican livery car. Roberto Gonzalez at the wheel of that. And Jean-Eric Verne is now at the wheel of the G-Drive number 26 car, which has moved up into 3rd in LMP2. Jeff just leaving the pits as out goes the number 1 Rebellion, with Bruno Senna at the wheel.
Yeah, both Toyotas back on track. Kobayashi still in the 7 car, Buemi in the 8 now.
Well, we haven't heard anything on the team radio, but I imagine they will now be going for a full race distance run. To get
full stint.
Stint, yeah, not race distance.
Race distance is 5,500 kilometres.
Race stint, yeah.
They'll struggle for that in the next 2 hours, won't they?
Yeah, but stint run, which is it's going to be 11 laps for the LMP1 hybrids round here.
Something you mentioned before, Martin, was the Ginettas we're looking at here now, not scattered in amongst the LMP2 cars. They are in the LMP1 cars, albeit toward the back, but they are now in their category and not mixing it with the others.
Yeah, but getting mileage in. The car in front of them by Colles has done 32 laps in total. The Ginettas have done 34 and 32. SMP's number 11 car, the one that Jensen Button's in, that's done 32 laps. Dragon Speed's number 10's only done 24. So I know they didn't race at Spa. I know they didn't do the test week. 92 picking up some speed. Now was he? Oh no, he's not.
No, he's coming back to the pits there.
He's got damage, which is why he's getting off the racing line.
Well, I just think he was very slow. He's obviously spun maybe in the Porsche curves, hasn't he? And he's just wanting to get out of the way.
Good shout.
Yeah. Oh. He didn't want to be half speed in the middle of the road, did he, down there?
Yeah.
Well, he's a lucky bunny that he managed to stop it before.
Lucky pig. Lucky pig, not lucky bunny.
Sorry. It's a very lucky person that he managed to stop before he tapped the barrier.
Yep.
And then coming into the pits. Bit of a check over.
Change of underwear.
They are lovely looking cars. So regardless of the colours, they are beautiful. They're so wide when you look at them from the front.
Well, the modern GTE cars really are, aren't they? They're almost as wide as they're long when you look at them. It just gives them such an aggressive stance on the track, whether it's, you know, still quite a rounded body shape, the current generation of 911. You know, everything else is all sharp edges and knife ridges. Even the Aston Martin now has gone that way that, you know, the Ferrari and the Corvette have had for the last few years, and the Ford is just, and that was dropped in by aliens from another planet.
Well, he's moving his arms around, and got to say that he was a bit surprised by the fact that the rear just gave up on him as he turned in. The rear started moving around, and he struggled to sort of get it back. By the way, when you say that was Ford GT was dropped in by aliens as a rebellion, bit of oversteer, power oversteer coming out of the chicane. Actually, the design director of Ford of America is from my hometown in Dumfries, Scotland.
Don't get more alien than that, do you? Now, this might be one of the reasons. This might be one of the reasons that the number 11 car hasn't gone anywhere. Vitaly Petrov standing watching as the mechanics rebuild the rear end. So it's had the gearbox off the back, and it, you know. In fairness, you make less progress without a gearbox than you do with one.
There's the pink headlights that I was saying about.
Now, does that mean that the 17 car is also having a major overhaul, a gearbox change or something? Often the case that on Thursday, teams will fit the race engine rather than a practice engine. Practice engine might well have done the test weekend as well, and then they'll have one fresh out of the bubble wrap for the race itself.
To be honest, you actually fit fresh everything.
Yeah.
As in from the front to the back, in terms of the teams that are going to try and win this thing, then you basically, apart from the chassis itself and the wiring loom, then it's pretty much fresh everything all the way from here.
There's an Aston still in the garage there. And,
there's Oliver Rowland on the right-hand side of the Ginetta, number 6. That car currently in 9th place right now. A 3:23.757.
Importantly for that car, they're ahead of their teammates. You know what it's like, Alan, don't you? It's so important to be ahead of your teammate.
Well, look, if you can't beat your teammate, you can't beat anybody. Let's have a quick word down in the pit lane. Louise Beckett, what do you know?
I just went and I spoke to the number 6 crew, and
I thought not too crazy, and I lost the rear. So had a long slide, I could get it back. I went through the gravel, didn't touch it.
So Kevin Escher saying it wasn't my fault. Louise, yes.
so what we all know that the Ginettas have had issues getting to this point to even be on track. And so what they're saying is each session they've just got targets, and their target was to get ahead of the LMP2s, which they've now done. So now they've just got to take another step up. And in fact, after everything they've been through, spirits are still high within that camp.
That's exactly what we want to hear. You know, they're not here to make up the numbers. They want to have a strong race with a brand new car. It's a new venture for Lawrence Tomlinson and Ginetta. LMP1 is a customer racing category. You know, you want to sell chassis. And so he wants the cars to do as well as they can to sell chassis. The team want to do as well as they can, predominantly for most of them, because
and the other one's just
ever Le Mans.
spun.
Yeah, there's the number 5 car. We've not seen much of that. Oh, okay, now he was trying to take a tighter line out there to avoid the Porsche, because if he'd run out all the way to the curbs, he would have bumped into the back of it. That's Charlie
Ferrari.
Robinson, and there's a Ford off. There's Ferrari off.
Ferrari spirit of race, isn't it? I was just going to say that's a slow zone going to happen down there now.
Right.
There's a new splitter on the Porsche, the Pink Pig, after that little run over the circuit by Kevin Estra. Thank you very much, Duncan, down there in the pits. Our secret spy.
Hunky dunky. So that was an off. That's down again, not making it all the way round. Mulsanne corner is where the Ferrari went off. So which Ferrari did we think it was?
It was a silver one, so I've got a feeling it's got to be Spirit of Race.
Yeah, it's Francesco.
Or Clearwater Racing.
No, it's not Clearwater. I don't think it was quite busy enough, and they're much more red and orange at the back. Ben Hanley in the number 10 Dragon Speed car.
Yeah, Spirit of the Race, because it hasn't finished that particular... Well, neither of them actually have finished that particular sector of the lap.
Dragon Speed have been shuffled down from 4th place to what is now 6th. Renger van der Zande was just out for his early run in this session.
That's got to be the coolest name in the entry, hasn't it?
Renger van der Zande?
I love it. I daren't say it, but it's great.
6 o'clock this morning, after finishing at midnight last night, we had a track run. Starting at the start and finish line, 6 a.m. we're talking about. Renger van der Zande there on his bicycle, ready to do it. Did 2 laps of the circuit.
Guido van der Garde might object to Renger van der Zande being the most impressive name.
I think that's great. Right, let's try and get it over to 61.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think as a
Matt
racing
Griffin.
driver, you go a long way past Albert von Thurn and Taxis as a name.
Well, he's actually in Cyprus this weekend, currently competing in the European Rally Championship. He turned to rallying last year and then this year. So, but
you guys are just mines of information.
Well, he's a prince, isn't he? We kind of hang out with him on the rally scene, which is my kind of normal thing.
Listen, when you're a von Haffen, you know the von Thurn and Taxis is.
Right, okay. But yeah, Albert, lovely guy, and he enjoys the challenge. He loved his motor racing, he tells us, but he enjoys that challenge of rallying. But it's completely different, and he's trying to learn as much as he can, and it's obviously a lot more difficult to learn rallying than it is racing, because you only see the stages twice on a reconnaissance and then only twice in the event, whereas you can go around here, if I was looking at 52, 53 laps for some of these cars.
Yep. Absolutely right. And 52 and 53 laps, you know, that's Toyota getting on with their program. They've done more laps than any other prototype car. They've done more laps than any of the GT cars by quite some substantial manner. Now, it does help that they're doing more laps in the same time, but that's the factor of being the fastest car of the lot. So the slow zone has been removed down at Mulsanne corner. which means, as we saw the Ferrari being craned away, it'll be put down onto terra firma and allowed to continue on its merry way, because here the idea is to try and keep the cars running as opposed to try and exclude the cars on every possible opportunity. The Racing Team Netherlands yellow Jumbo Dallara LMP2 car right at pit out. Right behind them, the number 25 Algarve Pro Racing Team, making their second appearance here at Le Mans. And the Algarve Pro Team with Mike Patterson about to get on board. Yes, Miss Patterson. Out goes the Toyota. And has Ben Hanley gone out yet in the Dragon Speed car? He has. So he is heading out. By Colles, the number 4 car, Oliver Webb, in the pits. Both of the SMP Racing Dallaras, or BR Engineering BR1s, are in the pit lane. And a number of the fleet of Fords are in as well, as you can see. 69 with Richard Westbrook bringing it in. 66, Stefan Mucker brought it in. The other 2 cars, 67 and 68, out on track. Interesting combination, Alan. Some of these teams, looking here at the Ford team, they've got 4 cars. 2 are regulars in WEC, 2 are regulars in IMSA. Same with Porsche. The Pink Pig, the Rothmans car, are the WEC cars. In the traditional or current Porsche factory livery, if you like, are the 2 IMSA racing cars. So you've got, you know, if you're in a couple of BMWs, you've got 4 Ferrari, 4 Porsches, and 4 factory Fords to beat before you can even think of getting on a podium in front of anybody else. Then there's the Ferraris and the Corvettes.
It's all about mass numbers, you know. This place does tend to spit cars out quite quickly over the course of 24 hours. So if you've got 4 in the fight, then you've got more chance of getting to the end than if you've got 2 in the fight. Simple maths in that respect. But just looking at that, the Ford there was putting on a new set of tyres to go out. And the Corvette 64 with Milner in the car as well has done exactly the same. As we see Jean-Eric Verne in the number 26 G-Drive just crossing the line in LMP2 as he goes up into the first corner. They're 3rd overall at the moment, and they're in fact only 0.3 of a second behind the IDEC car.
Obviously, you're involved in Formula E. Jean-Eric Verne is out there. How different is it to drive like a single-seater in Formula E to then come here in an LMP2 car?
Well, in every way it's different category. It's like squash and tennis if you're into racket and ball sports, or rugby and football if you're into ball sports. In that respect, they're similar in a way, but in reality the driving style and everything else about it, Formula E race is 40 minutes long. You know, this is 24 hours long. And so from that perspective, then a completely different thing. And that's the adaptability that I think is very important around here. Is something that Fernando Alonso's going to have to learn, is the adaptability of what the car will do and how the track will change, how the line you can take due to traffic and things dropping onto the circuit through the course of 24 hours. Watching the 2 onboards there of his 2 cars in split screen.
But that's it also, Alonso in a Formula 1 race, what are they doing? 25 laps or something on a set of tyres. These lot are having to drag it out for a lot longer than that.
Yes, very true.
So they're just trying to get more and more out of it. So Alonso really having to adapt a lot of stuff and get himself in it right. The 92 Porsche has got a front splitter on it and got itself sorted. And going down, there's the pinky coloured lights. So the 35 SMP. Now that had a bit of a moment in the first session. We were down at Porsche Girls when it did that moment.
That's their LMP2 car, because they've got 2 P1 cars and they've got a P2 car as well, identically liveried, same chassis manufacturer. So yeah, thanks for that. Going to take a little, keep your eyes on the screen and listen up as we have a chat with Formula Mans winner and now car manufacturer David Bratton. First of all, Brabs, I haven't seen you in years. How have you been? You've been a busy boy.
Yeah, the reason why you haven't seen me is because I've been quite busy. But it's fantastic to be back at Le Mans. It's such a special place. I have so many great memories. You know, I competed here 18 times. I think this is my 21st trip to Le Mans.
And what are the racetrack if they ever dropped a car on your foot?
That's true, yeah, you remember that. Yeah, I think my foot's telling me that happened right now. But yeah, that was an interesting experience.
There you go.
Having a car dropped on your foot.
And that's the only time you've won here, only not to be the winner by the time you got back to England, correct?
Yes.
We're talking about the TWRX J220 year, when Tom had decided that the IMSA regs didn't require the car to run with catalytic converters, whereas the performance figures and the ACO disagreed with him.
Which they often did back then, I think.
Yes. He was a free thinker when it came to regulations. They were there merely for general guidance.
They were there for a nuisance.
Like pirates. It wasn't strict guidelines. It was more of a kind of informal thing.
Yeah, so that was a shame, because obviously, you know, being on the podium was a great achievement for the team. And my brother winning overall for Peugeot. Yeah. So from a family point of view, just on that day,
that was a big
very special.
Day, wasn't it?
Huge, yeah, absolutely. Because Dad was there, and he had a massive grin on his face. It was obviously
67 glancing blow.
That's the 67 Ford that went off backwards at
Chicane on board.
In the first session. So Tony Kanaan was watching Andy Priaulx back it off. Now he has his own moment. And in fact, that's only a few meters before where Priaulx went off as he went backwards.
There's a lot of people going off at the moment, isn't there?
Do you know, it's been a very funny evening. There's been cars off everywhere. And why, Brabs? Where's he gone wrong here?
Oh, he's just didn't get it right, did he? He just turned in a bit too quick.
He just didn't get it right. I love it.
See, I wish Australian racing drivers would stop mincing their words and just get straight to the chase. Just got in a little hot down the S's, didn't he? And
yeah, just went in a bit too quick and sort of lost the rear a little bit by the looks of it on the entry. And by the time he corrected, he was offline and in the dirt. So, off he went.
We're just having a little talk about GT cars recently, and about, you know, how big, wide, fat these things look, and how the Porsche's still got a slightly kind of rounded look to it. Everything else is very edgy and sharp, and the Ford looks like it's been dropped from space. Well, your car, the brand new BT62, not dropped from space, but dropped from South Australia. How does it feel to be able to look at a car that you have created?
It's very special in many ways. I'm not sure it's 100% sunk in, because you're flat out working on the project. We have done for just over a couple of years, and I don't think it'll be till later on that we'll look back and go, wow, you know, this is the brand reborn, you know, and it's moving forward with the Bratton BT62 as our first product. And you know, the car has exceeded expectations in terms of performance, but also the reaction that it's had around the world when we launched, you know, May 2nd in London at Australia House. And obviously we mentioned the Australian connection of where the car is built. And it's an exciting project, and something that's going to take Brabham well into the future and back on racetrack as well.
First thing I found out when I learned that the car was built in Australia with the family name on it and an Aussie-built V8, I then wanted to know, do Repco still exist?
Yes, they do. Yeah, but
see, that would be so much.
But when you look at what we did with the engine, it's very similar to what Jack did with Repco.
Yeah.
So they got an OEM block.
Yeah.
And you know, modified it for racing to go Formula One, and for us, we've done a very similar thing. We had an OEM block, and we developed this to be more of a racing engine with endurance in mind, with endurance racing in mind. The whole architecture of the vehicle, in terms of its construction.
The 38's off. That's the first chicane, isn't it? Just after the pits.
Yeah. There's another one.
Yet another. Yeah, you know. I'm not quite sure. It's the curbs on the right. Everybody gets on those curbs, and that's it. You're done. Either it swaps ends on you, or you go straight off like the Toyota did. And that is firmly beached. We're going to get a slow zone there.
It's a tricky corner to actually brake late on. And in some ways, it's interesting. When you get into a rhythm in the race, you don't brake as late, but you're actually going through there as quick.
Just how does that work then? You brake earlier and then
you just brake a fraction earlier, and you just allow the car to do the work.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everyone's probably pushing for a bit of a time at the moment, so they're overstretching it a little bit. The bumps there do upset. The contact patch on the ground gets reduced quite a lot, as you can see, and and obviously lost the rear end.
And the problem with running over the curbs is that they are serrated, so it's grip, no grip, grip, no grip, grip, no grip, grip, no grip. So basically you've got half the tyre grip that you'd normally have, just as you're trying to lean on that right-hand side.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about the track itself? You know, how much has it changed from when you first came here with DC and the Jag?
Well, my first time was 92 in the Toyota.
Right, so that's yeah.
You know, it's changed a little bit, but not massively. I mean, we had the chicanes back then, and that's a good old slide, isn't it?
Yeah, those tyres are good for absolutely nothing now, yeah.
Travel tyres.
Definitely.
Yeah, the track hasn't really changed a massive amount. It has in some sections. Obviously, Tête Rouge is different. And of course, actually thinking about it, through the Dunlop chicane, that wasn't there either. We used to kind of go over the hill, over the down, bridge.
Now, did you race here with the old S's? Because this current, you know, the MotoGP friendly one, that's a lot more recent than 92,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes, I raced before that.
Proper old S's.
Yeah.
So,
I was just going to say,
Jules,
just going on about your new car, people are tuning in, joining us on the app and everything new. What was the reason behind it? How was it funded? I mean, I know, but just like for our new viewers who are just tuning in for the first time at this amazing race, what was the design behind it? And it's like people have like crowdfunded it, so to speak.
No, that was something separate.
That was something separate.
Yeah. So we did the crowdfunding campaign called Project Bratton back in 2014, and that was to go racing. But it was really a sort of teaser in a way, and to get some seed money, get some support to keep the momentum going. But of course, you know, we raised 300,000 from 64 countries, so that was an amazing feat. But that doesn't get you a race team to go to Le Mans and WEC and provide all that content that we talked about with fan, driver, engineer. But you know, so how do we get to a race team? How do we do that? And then 2.5 years ago, I met up with a group in Australia and called Fusion Capital, and they had advanced manufacturing capabilities. They had a vision of where they wanted to go in the mobility space. They wanted a Halo project. I was introduced by a mutual contact because of the dream I had of bringing Brabham back into the global stage and have some future for it. And we just sat down and started talking about that vision and where we wanted to go with it. And 2.5 years later, you've got the Brabham BT62. It's been an amazing 2.5 years. So they've got the finance, they've got the capabilities, the expertise, and we use obviously people in Australia and the UK to produce this vehicle. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then obviously our goal is to go racing to Le Mans. This is where we want to head to. We're waiting for the regulations to come out on Friday.
Yeah.
And our partner Michelin would asked us to bring the car down and put it on the front of their hospitality unit, which looks fantastic there. And and when we do go racing, that's when Project Brabham starts to come to life. We'll be able to start to bring some content with the activities that we're doing with Brabham Automotive to actually provide some content for when we actually then go racing. We'll be able to build the platform, go racing, hopefully here at Le Mans in the future. And everything is sort of coming together with all these jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah.
Not quite how I probably envisioned it 12 years ago when I had the vision of potentially getting Brabham back out
12 years ago.
Yeah, 12 years ago. Because I lost 7 years in the courts trying to get the Brabham name back in the German court. So obviously I lost some momentum with that. But I think when I look in retrospect, it was actually some really positive things that came out of that period that I didn't realize at the time. But it's what's made today so real and special.
Well, look, it is a fabulous looking thing. You know, there's no question that the first customers are going to just have a wonderful, I was going to say piece of history, but
yeah,
it is. It's a piece of history going forward. You know, and
70 years of Brabham, 70 cars. First 35 cars are celebrating each Formula One Grand Prix victory. So the livery, the car number
will be the car that
won the first 35. Yeah. So the car that you saw at the launch, the green and gold, that was a celebration of my dad's win in the French Grand Prix in '66 and the BT19 at Reims. So that's a one-off. So we've got 35 one-offs on offer although...
There is some pretty cool colour schemes there.
There is, absolutely.
Pretty cool.
There really is. And then the other 35 are what we call the signature series, which the liveries can either celebrate a history of Brabham's success or a livery of their choice.
So, has anybody applied for the Brabhams that you drove yet? I mean, that's a pretty wild colour scheme for a road car.
Yeah, well,
purple and
successful
pink.
Though, was it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I wouldn't be promoting that one. No.
Well, listen, mate. Fantastic to see you again. I haven't seen you in years.
Yeah,
How's the family?
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Sam's here, and my other son Finn. He's got his head buried in A-level exams.
All right. All of that being a dad, you've got control back of the family firm, literally and metaphorically.
The name, yep.
You're building cars. Brabham are building cars again. Brabham are looking to go racing.
Yep. And also to produce road cars and so forth. You know, if you look at the car and the design of the vehicle, it's a combination of function and form. Function for track, obviously, because it's a track car. It's got 700 horsepower. It's got 1,200 kilos of downforce. It's 972 kilos. So power to weight's really good. So it's a fast vehicle. But if you look at the shape and the architecture of the way we've put it together, it's got racing in mind, endurance racing. But also it's got the road car aesthetics to take it to road, because it's a sexy looking car. I mean, so many people have commented so positively about it. So the designers have done a fantastic job.
In a car park full of Ferraris or Lamborghinis or Ford GTs, it's absolutely not going to look even remotely out of place. No,
it's not.
It's right up there.
Absolutely.
And how much, if someone wants one of these ones, how much are we looking?
Well, 1.2 million, including taxes. 1.2 million pounds.
1.2 million pounds, right? Okay, that's just ruled me out. I only had a million.
Well, the good news is deposits are coming in. And slots are being taken. So
which is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Which is fantastic. And it's it's vindication of all of those years of work and all those hopes and dreams. And mate, I couldn't be happier.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's a great looking car, and it's just great to have the family involved in the program again, and fantastic.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
And thank you so much for coming in to chat to us.
That's all right. Courtesy of Alan McNish.
Thank you very much. All right, David Brabham, we wish you the very best of luck for the future with the car, and I can't wait until he's back as a team owner in a GT team here at Le Mans. Louise Beckett down in the pit lane. We had a little chat there. It's got dark since David came in, but our lights are on. What's going on downstairs?
The number 17 has made it back out on track. And the 38, Jackie Chan, was that the one?
Yeah, that was the one that went off at Dunlop.
Just made its way down the pit lane now, so I'm just walking towards them.
Well, you'll be able to see it coming in like a clown car, because it'll have threepenny bit tyres.
Questioned it, because from what I saw I couldn't see anything as it went past, but maybe the darkness is affecting my eyes.
It's old age. Louise Beckett, thank you very much.
Change at the top of LMP2. TDS Racing gone ahead of IDEC Sport. I'm sure that's a change, isn't it?
It is, yes. IDEC Sport have been pole sitters since the first 5 minutes of qualifying one, and we now have an hour and 40 minutes to go. Loic Duval has just handed over to Paul Lafargue, his younger teammate, but the TDS Racing car of Francois Perrodo, who's just gone out in it. The TDS Racing, the number 28 car, has, as you say, well, we were chatting to Brabs, and it was a little out of our shot. Mathieu Vazivière, Loic Duval and Francois Perrodo's car, as Louise is telling me. Loic Duval brought the car in. See if you can get a quick word with him and give us a shout, because he's put that car onto pole position at the moment. The 48 IDEC car is in second place, and third is the number 31 Dragon Speed car ahead of Roman Rusinoff in the G-Drive car.
Yeah, but if I look at the gaps that are between them, it's ridiculously big. You know, we're talking about between first and third, 7,000ths of a second.
Do you know, I think this is just unacceptably lame driving by the third place car, a whole 7,000ths of a second. Here is the 38 car with the nose. Oh, that's not the 38 car, is it? 38 has got the white nose. The problem now is we've got 4 Jackie Chan DC racing cars to identify from each other. The 2 regular cars, 37 and 38, and I think that was 38. And they've got a 33 and a 34 car as well, and 34 is in, and that might have Ricky Taylor in. So it's either 34 or 38. I can be of no further assistance to you on this one.
Tony Kanaan's car still in the pits after that glancing blur. I love the way that there was that description when we asked Bratton, what happened there? Well, he didn't get it right.
What did he do wrong? He didn't get it right. Louise Beckett is down at Jackie Chan DC Racing. You see, I only talked about them, Luke, so you knew you were next door. So 38 is...
Yeah,
okay.
38 has come in. As I said, as it went past, I couldn't see any damage at all, and there isn't any, but it did go through the gravel.
Right,
so,
now, there's another car in that garage with the nose off. Is that 34 then? Because there are 2 Jackie Chan DC Racing cars in the pits as you speak to me now. And 34 is the other one, so I couldn't tell because it had the nose off whether it was 38 or 34. Oh, a noisy car. I said, which car of the 2 Jackie Chan cars that is with you has got the nose off it?
38.
38 has, okay, thank you. 34 is in, give us... Oh, there you go, okay, it was driver change as well. Thank you very much. So we are motoring down the Mulsanne straight with the number 8 Toyota heading down towards Mulsanne corner over the last little brow, braking here, trying to avoid the white lines. And this is no longer a 90-degree right-hand turn because it's got a roundabout slip road leading into the corner itself. So it's a sort of 2-part corner, and you slow down through the first element before really anchoring up into the last bit. That's what's caused so many problems yesterday. Blue flash of the lights. That mirrors the marshal's blue flags, and also on the dash of the slower car, a blue light flashing in his data system screen to tell him that he's being approached by a quicker car. And this, Jules, is the number 8 Toyota. Kazuki Nakajima back at the wheel again, or still at the wheel, because he's doing a bit of a long race stint run.
That's it, yeah, he's quickest car still. His teammate not getting it together, and Kobe actually just had those issues, didn't he, in the last split each time, the last sector each time. So that 38 car that's in with the nose off, that was the one that spun at the Dunlop chicane. Yeah. So that is that one. Riquelme was on board when that went round.
Yeah, so they're just clearing the gravel out of everywhere so it doesn't end up in brake ducts and getting into brake calipers and all that sort of stuff, which does an awful lot of damage. Doesn't just score the brakes, it throws the car off the road. 34 has gone back out. Com Ledegar is driving that car. Now, you may not know his name. He's a French Porsche driver. He's a bit of a Porsche Carrera Super Cup exponent. Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup, I should probably call it properly. So Com Ledegar making his first prototype appearance here at Le Mans. Trying to remember if he raced in a GT car last year, and I think he may have. Louise reminded me from the pit lane that of our Jackie Chan DC cars, 37 and 38 are Orica chassis run by Jota Sport, and the other 2 are Ligier chassis, which are the ones that they're using in their Asian Le Mans. Trying to find my rookies list. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, well, this is the 28 car, which is quickest so far in LMP2. The TDS racing car, Perodo on board at the moment, coming out through Tête Rouge and heading towards the Mulsanne straight. Just looking through everything else, it is as you were in GTE Pro. The 91 Porsche, the 92 Porsche, then the 66 Ford. GTE Am is the Dempsey Proton Racing 88. Then it is the 86 Gulf Racing, followed by the Dempsey Proton Racing 77 car in our top 3 of both of those categories. As we just look into the pits. And that is the old-fashioned brand-new pits of the Porsches that we've all been kind of reminiscing over. That's the guy who set the fastest lap last night and then put it into the gravel, but didn't need to worry. No one's got near him since.
Yeah, nobody's got within a second and a half of him since. Great sort of old-fashioned looking helmet Jimmy Bruni's got as well. None of your modern sort of funky...
There's a car going slowly
things.
here.
Yeah, very slowly, and it's...
got a puncture, I think, left rear puncture, I think.
Red, white and blue. That might have been one of the SMP cars. I think it might have been their P2 car, actually. The SMP Racing P1 cars being run by ART, essentially. On board with Richard Leeds in the 91 Porsche. This is the other of the retro liveries. It's 35. It was their P2 car. There you are. A stop clock is right twice a day.
Harrison Newey at the wheel, left rear puncture, as you said.
Well, he's done a good job bringing it back, hasn't he? Because you can see how little of the tyre is attached to the rim, none whatsoever, but it hasn't ripped the back of the car apart.
There's quite a few punctures at the moment. Harrison they've not had very many laps, and certainly he's only had something like 5 or 6 laps over the course of yesterday and today, so that'll be annoying for them, because, and certainly for him, because this place is all about experience, especially for the rookies.
Well, Harrison Newey, one of the rookies, one of 2 rookies in that car, because Norman Nato has never started a race here before, another ex-single-seater race. And to answer my own question, Com Ledigar is a rookie this year as well. He's never started a race at Le Mans.
Yeah, but Norman Nato, I think they've done 52 laps so far cumulative, and I think earlier on Nato had done about 35 of those.
Yeah, hogging the wheel.
Yeah, basically, you need to jimmy him out of the car.
I love the colour scheme on these Porsches. I think I'm more a blue and white one than the pink pig, as you call it. Yeah. I do. I'm just a little bit too young for the pink pig colour scheme.
So am I.
Yes, that's what I thought. And the blue and white of the tobacco company colouring, I was kind of, that's what I was brought up on in sports car racing when I was a child watching it.
Well, listen, they were dominant colours for such a long period in such a big period of sports car racing, in the same way that, you know, the Audi colours would be very familiar. And they're as familiar to anybody as a sort of black and gold Lotus or a red and white McLaren.
But I think teams should be encouraged to do these special liveries, you know. We see, my first year here was only at 2014 commentating, and the Porsches, the Audis and the Toyotas all look very, very similar in colour schemes. So I think it's great that teams are a bit bold sometimes and do something different.
Yeah, well, listen, you know, recognise your heritage. You know, it's not just the 3rd Manchester United away change strip of the season. It's recognising the heritage. And, you know, among all, Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, they're very, very aware nowadays of their heritage, because it's part of who you are now, what you bring to the table. You know, people buy 911s not just because they're a good car now, but because they've always been a good car.
Well, they're making money out of the T-shirts. Alan's like looking at us as if I don't know what, but the amount of T-shirts they've sold in that Porsche shop. I mean, the queue out the door for those retro T-shirts.
Look, it's Father's Day weekend, you know, how are they not going to sell them? Alan?
Well, they're only going to change one tyre, this left rear. They're having a little look around, see if there's any damage, but as you said, Newey's came back very, very slowly. A little bit of damage to the rear leading edge of the splitter, so that's not exactly, of the diffuser, that's not ideal, because the air will definitely go into there and then it'll sort of stall that a little bit, but it is only going to be one tyre change and not all, no, it is all 4 now. They've changed their mind, gone all 4.
First one first. One of a host of LMP2 cars on the Dunlop tyre. In fact, I think all the LMP2 cars are on Dunlop tyres this weekend. 39 rookies in the field, by the way, among whom Harrison rookie, Harrison Newey numbers. Juan Pablo Montoya, another rookie. Pastor Maldonado, not sure what he's done in the past. Paul Di Resta, where did he come from? Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso, Felipe Nasser, another ex-Grand Prix driver as a first-timer. And the latest crop of Porsche Junior drivers, Matty Campbell from Australia, Julien Anglard from France. Yeah, a whole host of young hopefuls. And of BMW's 6 drivers, 4 of them have never started the race before either. No, 3 of them have never started. Martin Tomczyk, Nicky Katzberg and Antonio Felix da Costa.
Toyota very wide there. You saw it kicking up the dust and the dirt underneath the car as he was overtaking and we're riding on board with the Rebellion. Just up ahead is the Toyota. This section of circuit, actually, both cars are very similar as the Rebellion pops into the pit lane.
Well, we're hearing from Alan McNish. Let's hear from his Le Mans winning teammate from a few years ago, Loic Duval. He's with Louise Beckett.
Yes, putting in a great time and enjoying it as well, Loic.
Yeah, a lot of fun on the track, I have to say. To be honest, you know, those LMP2 cars are much quicker than the first LMP1 I drove here. And it's quite fun to drive the cars. I mean, honestly, we didn't expect to be able to beat the Michelin tires because they are really competitive on a single lap. But at the end, so far, it worked out, even though, you know, it's really not the most important thing here. It's about Saturday and Sunday, for sure. But it's always fun, you know, to be able to push one lap and also to get the feeling to the team, you know. I mean, I'm sure they're always happy to see the lap time up there.
How is it being here and seeing all those familiar faces? There's so many ex-Audi guys here and across the board.
Yeah, plenty of us. I mean, drivers, engineers, mechanics, even Dr. Ulrich is here, you know. I mean, it's a lot of people. I mean, I have to say, you know, when we stopped the program at the end of 2016, it was heartbroken, you know, for all of us. And we all love this race, for sure. And yeah, it's great to be back. You know, I really definitely missed it last year. I mean, I couldn't come because I had a DTM race with Audi. But I'm really glad to be able to be here, you know, with this team, having a lot of fun, enjoying Le Mans again.
Your ex-Le Mans winning teammate, Alan's just said in my ear, well done.
Thank you, Alan. Still can do it. Thanks.
Yeah, there was no doubt that he still could do it, that's for sure. Certainly one of the quickest teammates I ever had. Thankfully, he was in the car and not against us. But Loic Duval sticking the car on provisional pole at the moment. Admittedly, 1.5 hours to go, so it still can go in another direction. But they've been pretty quick, in all honesty, all the way through.
Just seeing a picture on Twitter, Endurance Info have posted of the Giorgio Serra-Giotto shunt that brought the red flags out. The car hit the barriers and then did quite a bit of aviating before it came into land. He's okay. The Villorba Corsa car has not reappeared after that shunt, and we won't see it until hopefully we see it on the grid on Saturday, or morning warm-up hopefully on Saturday morning. So the critical thing there is that Giorgio Serra-Giotto walked away, but the Villorba Corsa team have a lot of work to do. Lots and lots of cars going off all afternoon, all evening, Alan, and not because of weather or anything else, but just...
No, I do think there's a little bit of weather in there.
Yeah, maybe so, maybe so. It's nice and cool outside. It's been pretty cloudy all day long.
Well, we're talking about 17, 18 track temperature. It gets down to about 13, 14, but that can be the crossover on the tyre, where the tyre compound just doesn't activate it. And if you can't load it enough to give it the tyre energy that it requires, because of maybe a slow zone or the fact that you come in and out of the pits, or you just don't have the feeling and confidence with the car, then it feels like ice, but it feels very edgy, where you'll turn and it reacts very badly and it's very aggressive, and that's a very tricky thing for a driver. And I think that's partly the reason there's been so many incidents that we normally wouldn't have expected, and certainly didn't get yesterday when track temperatures were up at 25, 26.
And also a few punctures, and with the amount of cars going off, bits of debris being left, sharp bits of gravel being left, I think that's all playing its part as well. They always say in American racing, cautions breed cautions, and unfortunately, people going off and having shunts tend to breed lots of punctures around here. The problem is the cars are stressed at high speed for a lot of the long lap here. The tyres stretch out at rotation, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and that's the thing is with high speed, with 5 times in an LMP1 car, you have 5 times over 200 miles per hour, over 320 kilometers per hour per lap. So therefore, the high-speed rotation of the tyre, and you tend to have punctures at the highest load, and the highest loads at the highest speed or the highest cornering force. Both of them are the worst times to have a puncture. You'd ideally like a puncture coming out of here at Mulsanne or something like that, where it's nice and slow and controlled, but that's never really the case.
Yeah, things never happen in just the right place, do they? You might get away with it, as Tony Kanaan did with a little glance on the barriers and the...
Let's get away with it because he's been in the pits for quite a long time.
Yeah, but he could have gone in hard and he just clanged it on the side. It might well have done a right rear corner.
He just didn't get it right, did he, apparently? That was it. But
yeah.
We're just on board there with Bourdais. Remember last year he missed this event because of that big shunt he had in qualifying for Indy.
In Indy,
so
yeah.
He won in his first year at Ford. He missed last year because of the shunt of Indy, and he's back again. A hometown boy as well, Le Mans born.
Yeah, born and bred in Le Mans. His father was a racer, and you know, he's stood on the overall podium here with Peugeot, and then again he said to win it a second time was something, but he said the retelling of history to win it with Ford, you know, 50 years on, he said that was something very, very special. It was more than just a race win. It was feeling like, he was talking about this afternoon while I was chatting to him, he said it was feeling like you were part of recreating history from half a century ago. And for a racing driver, you know, they're all very cynical about speed and, you know, all of that. But when you grow up in a racing family like he did, you know, your dad watches racing, your dad's a driver, you love your racing. He's got a real keen knowledge of history, and that had a very big emotional effect on him, probably as much as winning his first ever Le Mans.
Spots of rain in the pit lane, I'm hearing, from
dear.
Duncan. Our man down there in his shorts.
His hair won't go frizzy.
I know that car's coming back into the pits, but a light off on that. Alan, at this speed in these dark conditions, how big a notice, or do you not notice one light off?
Not in the pit lane because there's lights everywhere, but that's also part of so they can indicate which car it is.
Yes, because the other one's got only the right-hand light on when it comes down the pit lane.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a factor, I think, probably of the speed limiter. I would. Yeah.
Basically what happens is you need identification in the night for which car is coming in. So both of them, say for example, they come in together, then the crews need to know which one is first. Now normally you've got the identification there. Some are green lights, some are red lights, some is one light switches off, some both, whatever it may be. But at the same time, the driver behind, or both drivers should say pit lane for one when they come through the 60, but also the driver in front should say that he's in front of the driver behind, so that the respective crews know what's going on.
So that's like the Porsche 91 having blue lights and the Porsche 92 having pink lights.
And you'll see at night, and people actually often ask at night, why has that Ferrari got a green wiper? Why has this got a that? Why have they got little patches of lights? And also...
Hold on, there's a bit sorry about that. You see that little sort of black patch? That's usually not good to be there.
With oil. The other thing that it'll be useful for is the mechanic on the pit wall showing a pit board, which are illuminated, so the drivers can see it and say, well, come on, in this day and age, they just get on the radio. Sometimes the radio doesn't work. You have to be able to know that it's your car is that set of lights coming towards you as you're trying to show them the board. So, you know, going back to the real fundamentals.
Just a little thing as we see the Ford there, the Porsche dancing down into the first chicane. Just a little note that the Corvette has sort of found a little bit of speed and has popped itself up into 9th in category. Garcia at the wheel of that car. Now they've been struggling a little bit. They're still, you know, 2.7 seconds off the quickest of the Ford GT times of Jimmy Bruni from yesterday. But this car, in fact, that we are on board with now, with Earl Bamber at the wheel, just got a black and white flag for abusing track limits.
And that will be showing up on his dashboard as well, a little message on his ID system from race control. And if he continues, well, he's clearly abused the track limits in the same place several times. You don't get a warning for once, you get a warning for repeated offences at the same place. And a few spots. Yeah, Peter Dumbreck's just stuck his head in the back of the commentary door to mention that he's on pole for the Aston Martin race, but also that it's sprinkling with rain. Earl Bamber's team are ready with the dollies, and I believe that might well be that because he was travelling slowly. Now, again, you can see there, even in the pit lane, on the pit wall, they're holding out an arrow for the Signatech car to point to its garage. Jules, when I came to meet you and Toby, in daylight, walking along the pit lane, all the boards block each other off as you're going along. You can't see where your garage is, so all of that.
You're standing, what height are you? Nearly 2 meters.
Yeah.
Remember, when you're sitting in the car, your backside is on the ground, so therefore you've got a completely different view and angle of it than standing up.
Oops.
Agreed, but with 60 cars and 60 illuminated boards, you don't want to overshoot your pit box by even one position. This is number 17.
That's
Well,
why
the one
on the
that's been
pit
having a
wall
load
side.
of work done on it. It came out and it stopped.
Now, this has been out and come back in and is just doing a stop at the moment with Stefan Sarrazin at the wheel. It's the 11 car that's had the gearbox change.
The first time that's
Yeah.
Dolly's coming out, going to go into the garage.
Are you sure that's done a lap?
Louise, you were telling us that, it has been out. You were telling us that it was in earlier for checkover and that the other car we saw was having a gearbox change. So I wonder whether the rear bodywork is going to come off, just a wild stab in the dark there.
potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I would think.
I can't get to it at the moment, but I will do.
Is that because you're hiding under the roof and sheltering from the rain?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Rain is drifting across the lights you saw there between us and the fairground, so there is a little sprinkling of light drizzle. On a scale of 1 to it's dreek out there, give us an indication of 1.5. 1.5, that's quite a long way from dreek. I tell you what, it was dreek on Tuesday.
Dreek, not dreek. Dreek.
Dreek. It was
That's for all of you in Scotland, just for a wee bit. It means it's declared a wet session now. So that means
well, anything
put wets on.
Exactly. And until it's declared a wet session, you cannot use wets. Earl Bamber is in and out. Former race winner shares with his race-winning teammate Nick Tandy and Patrick Pilet, another of the factory Porsche drivers. Pilet's been a winner in the GT class, hasn't he? With the Matmut Porsches, as the pro driver in the AM class in Matmut Porsches, with the boss of Matmut, whose name escapes me now entirely. Please turn on the lights in rain lights in low mode, the drivers are being told.
I'm going to just pass the microphone across to Mr. Peter Dumbrek at this moment. A quick pit stop, driver change, full service.
Right, we'll do this in the approved manner of Test Match Special. Car 33, fastest lap of David Cheng, deleted due to a violation of slow zone. We're being announced. So that's just a lap. It's not necessarily their quickest lap. And the next voice you hear will be Peter Dumbrek. Good evening, Peter.
Hello. Good evening. Yeah.
There you go. That's the way we do that. So, a little bit of drizzle out there. How long on a relatively warm track are slicks going to be your friend before they start really not helping much at all?
You've got more than one situation. You've got the situation where you're qualifying and there's no sense in risking anything. And there's a situation in the race when you've got to run and you would be running on slicks right now.
Right.
So, yeah, no one really wants to take any big risks now. Maybe quite a few of the cars are going to pit in. But then again, we don't know all the way around the circuit how hard it's raining. If it's just localized to one area and they get through it quickly, it might not affect it too much. And there might be cars that have struggled to put a time in, and they just need to get some laps in the car and maybe even improve slightly. And they could still do that in this situation.
Well, we just saw him taking his helmet off. Everybody's favourite Kiwi, unless you're a Scott Dixon fan, Earl Bamber is with Louise Beckett.
Earl Bamber, we saw that there was limits for you out on track, but I could see the team were already waiting for you to come in and bring the car in. You've been having a look at the back tyres. What's going on?
Yeah, I got a warning on the last lap, but it was okay. We weren't really gaining anything. We're just going in the marbles massively. But no, we're just trying to do the long runs now. Get through the motions and do the race prep. We're sort of fixed where we are for the quali, I think, so we won't do another attempt, but we just want to get the car well balanced for the race, so now Nick will keep driving.
So what was the discussions about the rear tyre?
We were trying to see what they look like and see how they're wearing, and like I say, doing the race prep at the moment, it's I think we've got quick cars on a one lap, that's clear, but you know, at the moment we don't have a great car on the long run, so we need to keep working away and keep chipping away at that.
Thank you.
Peter, we see a rear wing, or rear end coming out for Toyota. Will they be looking now, maybe wanting a little bit more rain to try and get some wet running in case this happens over the weekend. What's that rear wing going to be doing? What are we doing with that?
Yeah, it could be, you know, a wing with a bit more downforce on, and rather than mess around and change the actual wing itself, they just change the whole rear end. It's a very quick job. But at the moment, I don't think, well, mind you, a team like Toyota will have spent a lot of money, a lot of budget getting weather forecasts and getting the most up-to-date information. Us sitting here in the box, we don't know what's going to happen next. We've got our BBC app on our phones telling us that it might rain. They'll know a lot more. See, yep, definitely affected a little bit there by the wet weather.
A little bit of a greasy outfield. That's the 98 AM class Aston Martin. Matthias Lauda at the wheel. Car that he shares with Pedro Lamy and Paul Dall'Anna, last year's AM class champions. And winners at Le Mans here in the AM class 2 years ago. They've got a lot of wins under their belt in that car, and one of the most experienced starters at Le Mans in Pedro Lamy as well. Man with the most starts in the field, you want to hazard a guess?
Jan Lammers.
It is Jan Lammers, 23.
Yes.
Also, the oldest driver in the field at 60. Oh, I'm not sure he is, actually. Mark Patterson's older than him, I think, possibly. And a win in 1988 for Jan Lammers. His first year was my first year, 1983. That was the first year I came here as well. Second most starts in the field.
Well, I'm quite new to this, so I don't need to kind of like answer that.
He's Monegasque. Ferrari driver. Olivier Beretta. He's correct.
Yes.
And a large number of his will have come in GT class with Vipers and so on. Yeah, Corvettes.
Lopez is out in the 7 car. That's the first time I've seen Lopez in the car in this session. Nakajima is still on board with him at the minute in the 8 car. Still quickest currently at the minute with his 3:15, 3:77.
Well, we're riding through now out of Mulsanne corner on the way to Indianapolis, and no rain streaming across the windscreen in the darkness. In fact, we're coming down to Mulsanne corner, are we? Yes, that's the final pass of Mulsanne straight. Doesn't look wet out there. I think the only little bits of drizzle we're really getting are around the pit lane.
Just some chit-chat from the 1 car. That's Neil Yanni out in the Rebellion, that is.
So no major rain anywhere, just a little bit of drizzle. Not affecting the track too much, but just taking that edge off. I think as a driver, and you see a few spots on the windscreen, it just maybe you don't push it quite 100% like you would. You just drop it back a few percent because you're just going to, you know, it'd be very silly at this stage of the weekend to just stick the car on the wall and risk everything when it's very difficult to do a super quick lap.
Like that huge accident. I don't know whether I kind of looked over Martin's shoulder to see that tweet of the 47 car. I mean, that's a massive shunt and a massive rebuild. If it is possible to rebuild at this short notice and late stage. Light rain level 1.
Yeah.
1 out of what? What are we going on there?
1 out of 10?
No, 1 out of 3, basically.
3? Yeah.
1 is light rain, which is anything from drizzle to sort of slightly annoying drizzle. 2 is proper rain. 3 is, hello, is that Noah?
You can see it in the headlights still though, on the the pit straight though.
It does seem to be quite localized to the pit area though, doesn't it?
And so often the case, isn't it? You know, how many times you race at Silverstone where it's dry on one half of the track and that's only 2.5 miles around. You know, here this is 8.5 miles around.
I've raced at Nürburgring when it's snowing in one.
Yes.
Sunny in another.
Yes.
Rain in another. Ice on the track in another.
Yeah, I was there at that race as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, never mind 4 seasons in one day. 4 seasons in one lap at the Nordschleife. It is not unheard of. Pink Pig is in for a little bit of a wash and a brush up. And an hour and 11 minutes still. And although this is, quote, a qualifying session, that merely actually means that if you set a faster time than somebody else, you'll be ahead of them on the grid. What is actually happening is everybody is doing all of their race prep. That's
Christina Nelson, isn't it?
Yeah, so it is Christina Nelson, the only female driver in the race. And she's in the Project One Porsche, or she is now in the Project One Porsche, sharing with Fabio Babini, who went off in it earlier, the Ebby Motorsport, went off in it earlier, and Eric Maris. So if it was Eric Maris that brought the car in. That car's about halfway down the AM field in 7th of 13 car. In fact, it is exactly halfway down, isn't it? It is the median of the field.
So looking down, going back to the rain situation, looking down the last laps of some of the cars that are crossing the line now, they seem to be a good sort of 8 or 9 seconds off their best. So obviously that rain is taking its toll at the moment, and there's not that much to be gained, you know, attacking for any fast laps. It's maybe just a case of driver change practice, getting through the drivers, giving any drivers that didn't get their laps in last night, they'll get them in tonight.
Montoya, isn't it, sat in the 32 car. Some change has been going on the rear, and then it said it was declared a wet track before, Peter, so they can use wet tyres, but they can also, for our new viewers, they can stay out on slicks if they want to. They don't have to change to wets, even though the circuit's been declared wet.
That's right, yeah. It's just a case of saying that, well, there's a bit of rain out there, and if there's any more that comes, then you can put your wets on whenever you like, or your intermediates, or whatever you choose.
And the other element is, I'm not going to red flag it if the rain gets heavier, because it's a wet track, so live with it. To an extent, and then you get to a certain level where they just go, okay, this is absolutely not safe. Juan Pablo Montoya, well, now from our camera we can see actually it's pretty much stopped spitting with rain down there. Look, there's barely anything on the camera lens.
Where the lights are forward is very good, but you have a gap in the middle, like, you know.
Talking about the headlights, I think, wasn't he?
Well, when you get a look at the older style Aston Martins, and particularly the 98 car, that's got 2 whacking great headlights right in the middle of the grille, you know, just beaming straight down the middle of the road. The other ones then can be fanned out a little bit to start to pick out, well, the owls and the trees and so on if they're not adjusted properly, but pick out the curbs when you're, because Peter, when you're driving a racing car, you're looking so much further round a corner than any road car driver does. You want to be able to see as far round corners as you can.
Yeah.
Because the straight is straight, it's not suddenly going to not be there.
Yeah, and likewise, the track doesn't change from lap to lap.
Yeah.
So you kind of, each lap that passes, you get more kind of tuned into it. And as I said yesterday, if you've done some laps in the light conditions, and then you get into the dark, it's that much easier because you kind of find your way around. But you still need those lights to be tuned properly, and they are tunable. That's the thing on these cars. You can just slightly adjust them and get them absolutely spot on for where you want them to be.
Duncan, who is our reporter from tomorrow, well, Saturday onwards. He's
from
just
Tomorrow's World?
Yeah, that's it, from Tomorrow's World. He's just saying it's getting heavier down in the pit lane where he is, but say very, very, very localised.
Well, he ought to get nearer to Juan Pablo Montoya because it's not
Louise. Louise is dry where she is.
So maybe he's at like box 1 and Louise is at box 30.
60.
And
well, because the dragon speed of Montoya is at like the pit exit end.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely. And they're in the cheap seats with no overhanging grandstands this year. Obviously, Louise is standing under the overhanging buildings because she's been here lots of times before and she's nobody's fool. On board with the Cinetic Alpine. Well, Louise is up towards pit exit. I think we need a Juan Pablo Montoya moment if she can grab one. JPM out of the United Autosports car. Well, I haven't heard him talk, so I want to hear his. We did talk to him in the first session. Let's make a thing of it. We'll talk to him in the second session, see how United are coming along. Because it's a big deal for United Autosports as well. They've raced in European Le Mans Series. They've done Road to Le Mans. This is their first time in the big one. So again, you know, it's a rookie team and a rookie driver. It'll be interesting to maybe get a view of how he thinks the team are feeling about this whole experience. Coming up behind a Corvette or an Aston.
Aston. It's an Aston, yeah.
Interesting there, you saw the lights of the Aston illuminating a track map. There you go, inside And it's not so there's a little dot going round telling you where you are on the track. It's so that if the driver should stop, he can say, I'm at Marshall's post 36, or I'm at T9 or whatever. Now, just as well you're here, not Alan, because we then have the thing with Alan is that all drivers talk about all corners by their numbers. I said, oh, so you've never taken Eau Rouge flat then, have you?
Yeah.
That was the end of that conversation.
You see, well, again, I'm not sure Alan's ever driven Nürburgring Nordschleife because, oh yes, I'm at turn 56.
172.
No, it doesn't work. Like, you've got to kind of know, either you know every corner or you know one corner in a group of 3.
Exactly.
So you can explain where you are and what's going on.
Yeah, exactly right, exactly right. And, you know, we can't beat history out of things just by numbering corners. I know that they are numbered for numerical, for timekeeping reasons, but the Porsche curves are still the Porsche curves. They're not turns 13, 14 and 15 or anything else. And Arnage is Arnage. Just saw Adrian and Harrison Newey. Harry out of the car. Another of our, what did I say, 39 rookies here this year? 39 rookies.
Wow.
One all-rookie driver lineup, and those are 3 Malaysians in the 37 Jackie Chan DC racing car, all supported by Sepang Circuit, who are looking for a race in the not-too-distant future. Jasmine Jafar, Nabil Jafri and Weiron Tan.
We were just on board with Billy Johnson. That's the 66 car, still currently in 3rd in the Pro category in GTE.
That'll obviously be the pep talk I gave those guys earlier on. We were chatting to them at the
I think that was the wrong graphic, though, because that was the Porsche.
The Ford's just in front of it, though.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, we were on board with the Ford briefly, weren't we? And now we're looking at a Project 1 Porsche.
Oh, this looks quite technical. Look at all that stuff.
Well, you know, ECUs, GCUs, and everything UCUs in between. This is the SMP racing car. Technically, what's happening here is they're sticking the gearbox back on the engine. But as you rightly say, the most unrecognisable to any normal person is all the electronic doohickery, and that's the bit. You know, you get one tiny kink in one of those, or one that's not quite clicked into place. You know when you plug the connector into your phone and it's not charging, and then, oh, it moves that last little 1/10 of a millimetre and clicks in. Every one of those electrical connections has the potential to not connect properly, and then nothing works. Living past Stefan Mucker, waiting for 66 to go
doesn't
moving.
it? Yeah, I knew it wasn't because it was Ford overalls.
Well, that looks like Jensen Button.
But the two of them look very similar in that shot. It was kind of like, you could, at a quick glance, think that was Jensen Button if you didn't see the Ford GT overalls. Look.
Yeah, I think they think the same.
Yeah, I mean, just look at that. That is so, like, kind of, wow.
They could cheer up a bit.
Well, you'd be starting to rain,
where are they on the grid? Where's that car on the grid?
They could cheer up a bit.
They actually could cheer up a bit. That car's doing very well.
They are leading the World Championship as well at the moment.
And they're leading the non-Porsche fight.
Because they won at Spa. They're the World Championship leaders. Say they won the race at Spa. They have the points. So, you know, this is the big race, though. This is worth a huge hatful of points. And the real problem with this year, the super season, is that it doesn't end at the end of the year. It ends at the end of next year's Le Mans. So in this season, uniquely, we will have 2 Le Mans 24 hours. We'll have 2 Spa 6 hours. We'll have 2 Silverstone 6 hours. We'll go to Fuji. We'll go to Shanghai. But the big one isn't the big one anymore. It's 2 the big ones.
Yeah.
Whoever ends up being the super season champion has had the season of seasons. Either because they've won all the races, except for 2 Le Mans, or they've won 2 Le Mans, which I think basically will end up being pretty much the same points. You know, we've had so many times, haven't we, with Le Mans early in the season, the team that wins Le Mans, pretty much all they have to do is tie up and sign on for the rest of the season and not have their teammates beat them.
Yeah.
And that, you know, the whole deal of the FIA WEC Super Season is not to have what you have with the Daytona 500. The first race in NASCAR is the big one. Imagine if Formula One started with the Monaco Grand Prix, how hard it would be to get sponsors for the rest of the year. You know, and the IMSA, they start their first 2 big races, or their first 2 races are Daytona 24, Sebring 12 hours.
Yeah.
You know, the other big one at the end of the season, Petit Le Mans, a 10-hour race, that's another thing. But the idea now is to have Le Mans as perhaps what you want the biggest, toughest race of all to be, the climax of the season. It's going to be the last race of every season from here on in.
So Ginetta out.
Ginetta going back out, yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's good to see them running.
Yeah, well, great looking livery on the car.
Yeah.
It is a great looking chassis. It's got decent, I mean, it looks well planted. I don't know if you've been trackside and watched them go by in the Porsche curves, but they look well planted.
This is the quicker of the two, and 9th quickest, and then the other one, the 5 car, 10th quickest.
Is Charlie Robertson circulating, or is he
Yeah, I think he is.
out?
Yeah.
I think he is. I think he's still going round. No, he's not, because they've only done 35 laps, and the 6th car's now up to 43.
Yeah, but there's not a P next to his name.
No, but he's
yeah, there he goes.
doesn't
He's
say
just
has
done another
stopped.
split.
Okay, so they have had a long stop, so they've sort of lost 7 or 8 laps to their teammates. I think they had done 1 or 2 more than the sister car. Well, here at Rebellion, Neil Jarni with another.
You better be careful not to get connected to that air hose there. He'll be taking it with him.
He'll be galloping out to the car and get twanged right back in.
That wasn't Neil. I'm sure that said Menezes on the back of his hands device.
Gustavo.
Yeah, Gustavo. I'm sure it was Gustavo Menezes, not Neil.
Is Gustavo Menezes Red Bull sponsored?
I saw the back of the hands device
right, okay.
had his Twitter name.
All right, okay. In which case, I'll take that back. So used to seeing Buemi with his Red Bull helmet on. So Gustavo is waiting for the number 3 car to come in, and
beautiful. I really like that car.
Great looking chassis, isn't it? And again, great looking livery.
And a great noise.
Yep. Yeah, there you go. It is Gustavo Menezes, indeed.
Well spotted there,
yeah.
Well spotted there, Julian.
Lots more glitter on his helmet than Neil Jarni. Neil Jarni has that Hindu sun on the top of the helmet as well, doesn't he? The Indian symbol, because although he is born and bred Swiss, he is from Indian heritage. So the Krone Racing Eurasia Motorsport liveried Ligier, Tracy Krone. Well, he's had his chance to go round there now at the Dunlop curve. I wonder who's running an accumulator, who's been off there and who hasn't. I reckon maybe a quarter of the field have gone off there. Now, that is not the mandatory indicator system from the race organisers. That's an individual thing at Toyota. It's got a little red thing in there that illuminates when it's telling them stuff to get their attention. But he also has the race control monitor.
What I love about it is Nakajima's going through something with his engineer. His engineer can't see him, but he's still moving his hands in the description. Yeah. No one can see that apart from us watching from the camera.
But think about it, you do that when you're on the telephone.
Yeah, you do. No one can see you, but you do move your hands.
But you can hear it sometimes.
We do it in here.
Yes, exactly, yeah. But we're looking at each other. Fernando Alonso in the background there, helmeted up, ready to go. Next to him with the headset on, you just see Philippe Leloup. Now, he was one of Hugues de Schonach's right-hand men at Orica for many, many years and has remained with the Toyota team, although de Schonach is no longer there. That's exactly what Julian was talking about. His engineer is not looking in through the front window. His engineer is either on the pit wall or in the back of the garage listening on the radio. That's driver's language, isn't it? Drivers talk with their hands.
Yeah, what do you think he was talking about there?
They make more sense with their hands. Yeah, I don't know.
Just rear movement in the car, maybe.
This is what everybody in a prototype has talked about all the way through since the beginning of track running yesterday, is the back is loose.
Well, funnily enough, I felt today in the Vulcan, fast corner entry, back was loose. As soon as it settled down, push under.
So what is different about the track that wasn't 11 days ago, 12 days ago on the test day Sunday. Why are they not on top of this now? They've had a day's running.
I don't, might it be, nice bit of warming up there, might it be that they had pretty much a week of rain?
Yeah.
Washing everything away, and just the track hasn't come back.
Or also washing all sorts of stuff onto the track. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, what's the inside of your caravan like? My caravan floor is covered in sand that you walk in, even though it hasn't rained for 2 days. Everything is covered in sand.
I've got fur rugs and stuff like that, and you know, nice cushions.
He is in quite a fancy caravan, remember?
Yeah, I've got the
Mine's
deluxe
bigger
model.
than yours, though, but you've got more. Yours is more fancy.
What, your caravan?
I thought the mirrored ceiling was a little overkill in yours, I've got to be honest, and the glitter ball.
There was a 95 Aston Martin on pit road there. Now, I haven't seen, whilst I've been in here for now over an hour and a half, I haven't seen an Aston Martin on track, as in a new one, a 95 or a 97.
A couple of times we've flashed by them with the onboards, but again, because the track goes back to public highway from midnight tonight until about 6 a.m. on Saturday, and cameras are very expensive, and so is fibre optic cable, the rest of the track beyond the permanent part is not fibred up and is not camered up during qualifying, because it takes far too long to put everything out, then bring it all back in, then put it all back out again. So we're not having pictures, as ever, from out around the track during the final day of qualifying, but we will have full coverage through the race and through the night. There's only about 3 or 4 cameras that aren't operational all the way through the night as well. So we don't see a lot out in the darkness. When we get into the race, we will. Let's hear from Toyota.
Fernando, loud and clear. Just verifying the plan for you. You have 2 runs. We start on the soft hardened tires, and we will switch at some point to soft rough, so we will have a clean comparison for you. And for the conditions, as you had feedback from Kazuki, the 5.7 is slippery and nice frizzle. Also, the chicanes are a little bit damp. General grip level, Sergio. What the balance of 5 as we need? And yeah, we'll see with the tires.
Now this is all stuff that Fernando's been used to for years and years and years. What you're doing in each run, you know, particularly you look at Formula 1 where they're going in 3-part qualifying, you know, you've got to have your ducks really in a row there, know exactly what you're going to do and when. But here it's exactly the same. You know, this is every single one of these laps, particularly for the hybrid car, is at 100% energy usage, which means you're not allowed to go any faster, but you can't afford to go any slower. You must use all available energy all the time on every lap. So it is 100% maximum attack. You've got to balance the petrol versus the electric hybrid power. You've got to deal with all the various different systems, grip levels and everything else. It might be a bit drizzly. You've got to know how many laps you're due to do. Rebellion is stuttering away. Now he finally gets it fired up and off he goes. And
36.
Is that 36? Yeah, it is. It's the Senior Tech Alpine.
Yeah.
That's not the first time it's been off either in this session,
So
is it?
slow zone in
It's at point
6.
24, 25. So that is on the run-up.
Slow is at Marshall's point 21, because that is Ulsan corner.
Is that all right?
Again. Now he's gone off nose first and wiped the nose off, and you can see why.
The windscreen, so
look on the right-hand side. There's the indicator. He's in the yellow flag zone. So everybody coming down towards that. Well, it says Marshall's post 21.
Yeah, I think that's where the slowdown starting, isn't it?
Yeah,
But he's
right.
at the next ones, isn't he?
Yeah.
Indianapolis, yeah. So, yeah.
Here we go.
Is this a damp track? He just lost the rear.
Yeah. Well, you can see it is wet. So he's just not quite squeezed the power in gently enough, and it's just looped round at the back. So he hasn't hit anything hard.
You know, we have this term with when you're running on tyres and the conditions are changing. You use the term the tyres. Either you can't get them switched on, or they suddenly just switch off. And his rear tyres just switched off with the damp condition there. They just suddenly completely out of the blue, threw the car around, and it's very hard to catch that. So if you're pushing hard, there's no warning of it, and they just suddenly switch off, and yeah, the car rotates on you, and there's not much you can do about it.
Well, we've all hit puddles on the motorway where you suddenly realise that your steering's gone very light because the wheels aren't attached to the ground, and that's exactly what happens in that situation. But particularly when you're trying to feed 650 horsepower through the rear tyres. Yeah, you know, the rear tyres are twice the width of your car, and they've got slick tyres, so they've got about, let's say, maybe 2.5 times the amount of rubber you've got on the road. But your 220 horsepower turbo diesel ain't really cutting it when it comes to matching the power of these things, and they weigh 1/3 of what your Mercedes does.
This is the 88 car. This is the quickest car in GTE AM at the moment.
Yep. Khalid Al-Khabaisi.
Khalid Al-Khabaisi getting out first.
Is that what you were trying to say?
Is that better than Renger van der Zande?
Yeah, that's... No. Renger van der Zande. I can get that one right.
Yeah.
Al-Khabaisi, I was struggling with there. I was going to say Khalid Al-Qasimi, because that's who I know from running, and I knew it wasn't that. So
you were nearly there.
I was nearly there, but got it mixed up. But what's that one again that I like?
Renger van der Zande.
Renger van der Zande. That's got to be the coolest name in the race, that has.
Gator van der Garde.
No. Van der Zande. That's brilliant.
What about good old Darren Turner? Yeah. That's a good name.
Alex Sims, who's in the 82 car. Philip Eng. Who's the shortest? Philip Eng. No, it would be Phil Eng, would be shorter. Weiron Tan, that's another 3-letter surname. Kim in the Algarve Pro car, that's another 3-letter surname. I don't think we've got anybody with a 2-letter surname. I've also been I've had my data files updated by my colleague in Istanbul, Yigit Top, who tells me that all the years I've been calling Salih Yoluk, proper Turkish pronunciation, I should have been calling him Salih Yoluc.
Right.
Because it's a hard C, so he has never corrected that.
And what did you say his name was?
Yigit Top.
Right, Yigit Top.
Yigit.
See, in Scotland, that's a different thing again.
Yeah, and in Ireland, where my other half of the family's from, yeah. Egypt.
28 car here. That is the quickest car in the LMP2 category.
Not now, it ain't.
Yeah, it is. A 28 car.
No, it is, but it's not going very quickly. He's properly cruising, isn't he?
Oh, no, he's not. That's not the slow zone there, is it?
No, he's having a meander. Well, I thought we saw Neil Jarni earlier on with his helmet on, but we don't. What we do have is Neil Jarni in the pit lane with Louise Beckett. What does he know?
Neil Jarni's just come back in the #1. How was your run?
It's drizzling a little bit out there, and it's quite difficult to judge how much water, or if it's getting slippery. It got quite slippery now in Arnage and Indy. I think also a car spun. So yeah, a bit tricky out there, but you know, it can't be like that in the race, so we stay out and practice.
Before the rain came, there was quite a few incidents. Is there a reason for that? Is that just mistakes, or is something going on with the track?
It's crazy this time. I haven't had so many incidents, or I can't remember seeing so many incidents. To be honest, I don't know. Maybe tires get quite quickly cold. It's cooler than last year or than in the other years, so maybe it's with tire temp a bit to do. Difficult to say. I hope in the race it will be a little bit cleaner.
And how is it for you with Rebellion?
Well, it's back to the future, basically. No, I had my very first Le Mans with Rebellion in 2009, and now my 10th. So it's kind of like a coming home. But yeah, it's different, obviously. You know, when we were here, Porsche target was always P1, P1, P1. Here, our target is preparation of the race, and just make sure we have a car to be there, to be ready in case Toyota chokes. And so it has changed a little bit, our approach, but nevertheless, it's not less interesting.
Your race suit certainly changed as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to join us in the zoo, so no problem, but you have to pay a ticket.
Do those stripes make you go faster?
Well, depends. If the lion is behind us, hunting us, then maybe we run a little bit quicker. Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, that went a little bit left field there towards the end. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Neil Charney. He responded well to that, didn't he? The car off at, this time it was at Mulsanne Corner, because we actually got the view of it, is the 88 Dempsey Proton car, fastest in the AM class. Porsche Junior driver Matteo Cairoli has taken it out from the pits and chucked it straight off halfway around the lap.
To be fair, we are getting reports of hard rain in the second chicane on Mulsanne, so that'll be the reason why.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just referring to Neil Yanni's comment there about this is, you know, one of the hardest Le Mans practice and qualifying sessions he's taken to. I wonder if that's to do with the amount of rookie drivers here. You know, did you say 30-odd rookie drivers?
No, because none of the rookies have been throwing it off. Nico Lapierre, not a rookie.
Yeah.
You know, and he's right. You know, the track temperature is colder than it was last year, but it's not so cold that nobody would know that the track temperature's colder and how to deal with it. But, you know, they need to stop throwing cars at the scenery, because we're going to have a massive rate of attrition if the race is like this. You know, this is like Sunday morning in the race with a surprise rain shower, the way the cars are going off. This is not like a let's get set for the race session. You know, we should be on long runs now. We're busy rebuilding cars. They're going to have to do all of this all day tomorrow.
I think what is clear is with this rain coming, then we've pretty much got our set positions in qualifying.
I think the newspapers can pretty safely go and write their Fernando Alonso starts Le Mans on pole story. There's Alex Sims in the number 82 BMW.
He doesn't like that red flash.
He's a bit shy.
Examination of the back of that Cinetic Alpine car. I wonder if his tyres did go away from him, or whether, don't forget, that's had a right rear corner put on because it got broken when Nico Lapierre rammed it over the curbs earlier on. And that was before the end of the previous session. I wonder whether that's not entirely as together as maybe it might do. Maybe it selected a box of neutrals for him when he was going down the gearbox or something, because they weren't changing the tyres, they were looking at the transmission.
Yeah, you never know.
Fernando Alonso on board the number 8 car. We heard him getting some instructions before he went out, and now with that the rain increasing, basically he's heading down towards where the rain is increasing now.
As Neil Yanni said, you know, you have to get used to these conditions. It might happen in the race, and like everything, you have to practice it. And if it's going to be wet down here at Mulsanne Corner, then you've got to be able to deal with it on slick tyres and go back to the dry condition later.
Yeah, got to get your head around it, haven't you? You can't just be panicking or sort of throwing it off.
Well, we've heard him many a time in Formula 1 Grand Prix last year and this year already saying, is it going to rain? Because if it rains, I've got a chance by just being a bit different or being a bit braver on slicks in the rain and staying out. Yeah. So I don't think he's scared at all about it, is it? It's just a new experience for him.
Well, it's black and white. You know, you have to do it. It's standard, so there's no point in thinking too much about it. It's just a case of, you know, adjusting to the situation. I think now we're starting to get the rain on his windscreen. You can just see a bit. We've got the slow zone down here anyway, but yeah, you can see the windscreen. It's not wet enough yet for him to even put the wipers on, but it's you know, going to affect the surface of the track. We know it's affected down the bottom because we've got the Dempsey Porsche still sitting there. It looks like it's still stopped. Yeah.
You're saying there that the wiper's not on. I mean, when you've got a lot of bugs and flies on the front of your car on the motorway, you don't want to turn the wipers on, do you? So how much has it really got to be raining for you to want to kind of risk smearing all that windscreen?
Well, to be fair, every time the car comes into the pits, it gets its windscreen wiped. So I don't know. He's only just got in the car, so it's.
But there's still quite a few on there already.
Yeah, maybe they just didn't do a good enough job then. But no, I would have thought that he could use it and it wouldn't be too much of an issue at this stage. I would think that, you know, if he's on the third stint of a 4 stint and it starts raining, yeah, that's when you've got to worry.
JMW's man on the ground says drizzle increasing at Mulsanne Corner. So it's, you know, you can look there above the Porsche Experience Centre just on the outside of the Ford Chicane, and it is bone dry, and it's dry outside our back door, says Hunky Dunky.
Looks indeed watching the inboard from the Toyota. Looks very light rain, so looks like ideal for the inters. However, there's still a slow zone number 5 active, which is 7 chicane to Bratton. So once this is clear, I will send you out on inters.
Inters.
Race teams like inters because they are contracted to supply a certain number of wet tyres and dry tyres to teams, but they like inters because they can sell them in addition to the normal allocation that they are contracted to supply. There's Jose Maria Lopez. We saw Pachito in the car earlier on. Going over to chat to his race engineer. Fernando Alonso circulating in the number 8 car. Mike Conway's just gone out in the car Pachito's vacated, the number 7 Toyota. And those cars first and second. So row 1 of Saturday's grid will be Toyotas. I think we can largely expect that to be the case, even with 40 minutes going, because normally, well, a decade ago, in about 25 minutes from now, we'd see Thomas Enger getting his helmet on, ready to go out just before midnight in the final session. Peter Smarts,
in the Aston Martin, yep.
Yeah, midnight on Thursday was Enger hour, where he would always try and go out and do that very last heartbreaking lap to try and grab pole in an Aston Martin. I saw him last year actually racing in Brno, but he hasn't been here for a few years. Interesting lineup in that 52 Ferrari.
These two cars just parked up, doing not very much now.
Yeah, well, I think all 3 or 4 of the AF Corsa cars are parked up, actually.
Every one of the pro cars is in the pits, and every one of the AMs, apart from the Dempsey, which is stopped down track, in the pits.
Hang on a minute.
There's virtually everyone in the pits.
The number 8 Toyota is out. Mike Conway's just gone out, and so has Felipe Albuquerque.
And that's it.
Those, there are 3 of 60 cars. Oh, right, the Dempsey Proton car never made it back. 3 of 60 cars are in. Jenson Button, if you're not keen on the traffic, get in the car now. Well, it's still damp, isn't it? But I've never seen as few as 3 cars on track at Le Mans.
They're predicting the rain to increase in 14 minutes' time.
Yeah, but everybody can't be ready for the race.
It's kind of like amazing, isn't it? A load of peas down the side.
I think it's at that stage now where we're almost between the slicks, because you can see the rain now here in front of us in the last chicane. So I think we're at the stage now where it's almost not slicks anymore.
Nice, but
it's not wet. Yeah. It's perhaps it's maybe even too early for intermediates, but it's just
the rain now in the headlights.
But, you know, what are they doing with Fernando? We're looking at Mike Conway here. Yeah, he's got that experience. What are they doing with Fernando? We're sending you out, and they were planning to send him out on the slight crossover tyre from hot of day to cool of night, and then go on to the other alternate. So they were going to give him a feel in the darkness on the cooler track of how the 2 different tyres felt. Why? So that when he's using one, he's not surprised by it. And secondly, so that he can maybe put some input in from the driver's view if he happens to be in the car at this time on Saturday night. No, it's not time yet for that tyre. That tyre can't deal with it yet, or it'll go off too quickly or whatever. But nobody is learning anything. There's only 3 cars circulating. That's 4 now, because Andre Lotter's gone out in the number 1 Rebellion. And it's not like there was suddenly a plague of frogs at Arnage and everybody dived for the pit lane together. They've all meandered in and stopped.
Certainly looks quite wet where he is now.
Yeah. And he's going very cautiously.
Yeah, look at that,
because he is on a slick, and he's got, you know, next to no grip there at all. But as soon as you get away from low speed and, you know, any kind of sheen on the surface, yeah. But you see, this is perfect for him. Great race simulation, because it could be like this in the race. You can't just stop.
Box this lap and pit confirmed, and 14 still damped, and 14 still damped. It's raining a little bit in 14 now. Okay, copy, take no risk.
Easier said than done, isn't it?
But the problem is, Peter, the slower he goes, the more risk he's taking, because then he loses any aerodynamic downforce.
And heat from the tyre, yeah.
And heat from the tyre, yeah.
But I think it really is too wet for slicks now. And even in the race, yeah, you can see it coming down. Even in the race, they will be looking for a change. You'd be losing too much time.
But again, it's great education for him, because now he feels what it's like. And okay, now he can go. If I was him, I would want now instant change onto intermediate straight out, while this is fresh in my mind, while the conditions are as close to being the same, and then you can immediately compare and contrast. I don't want to go back in the garage. I don't want to make a change. I want to feel now what it's like.
They're not listening to you, though.
And this is just wasting time. It's not. He's not learning anything from sitting stationary, other than in practice you come in when it's wet.
Well, there's certainly no intermediate tyres going on that car right now.
Couple of fines being given out. Car 28. Hang on.
Well, that's the TDS car that is. Now then, listen. That's the TDS car that is fastest, and its times up until 22:13 are all deleted. When he set his class pole lap, I couldn't tell you.
No.
But they've also been fined €1,000 for not stopping at the scrutineering light. So too has the number 54 car, which is...
Spirit of Race.
Spirit of Race Ferrari. All right, well, that's not right up at the top of the pile in the AM class, so that's less of an issue. But potentially, IDEC might just have got their pole position back. And they're not going to earn it back in this weather. Here comes the number 7 car, Mike Conway, out and straight back in again. So I'm guessing they didn't send him out on inters, they sent him out on slicks. And he's coming back in, and probably glad to do so. Mimo Rojas has gone out in the IDEC Sport car, which is currently second fastest in LMP2, and also out Hugo de Sadelaire for United Autosports. Again, you know, he's driven the car, and trying to think if we've had a wet ELMS race with Hugo de Sadelaire in. I don't think we have. So he may never have driven the car in the rain or any kind of wet weather. You know, he's driven it in the cold at Silverstone. I don't think de Sadelaire's driven in the wet. And Louise, cars are all undercover in a garage. Is anybody doing anything? Does it look like anybody's bothering again, or are they all going home for a crafty beer?
That's exactly what I'm questioning. Maybe not the beer bit, but most of them are in the garages. Some are being worked on, some aren't. I can only see 2 cars right now in the pit lane.
Well, another car that's just gone out, thanks Lou, another car that's just gone out, Egidio Perfetti. Egidio Perfetti in the Team Project 1 Porsche. He's never raced here in the rain. He's raced here once. He raced here in the Spirit of Le Mans race last year. Neither of those races were wet. He's never raced here in the rain. He's never driven here in the rain. So he needs to find out what it's like. There's 39 rookies need to find out what it's like. Jenson Button's car hasn't moved. He won't know. First time he drives at Le Mans in the rain, it'll be in a race. You know, that's not easy.
I think the decision's been made by the teams to just hold back, not risk anything, and wait till the race and let the driver sort it out in the race. You know,
checked up perfect.
Yep, there you go.
Hey, listen, let the drivers go out now, find out that they can't deal with it and have a shunt.
And smash the car. Yeah.
Well, at least you've got a day to repair it. Where in the race, you don't. So, you know, it's... I'm not all over that. I'm really not all over that at all. So far, we have got Andre Lotterer in the number 1 Rebellion, Felipe Albuquerque in the 22 United Autosports car, and of their 3 drivers, he's the only one that's not a rookie. So he doesn't need the laps in the rain. He must have driven in the rain before.
Hang on, we're going to sleep here, aren't we?
Hugo de Sadelaire. So United Autosports have sent out both their cars.
The rain is going to increase from now on. Do you think we should give more laps to Jose? You want to do some laps like this, and then we give some laps to Jose? Yeah, copy. I wouldn't mind doing just a couple of laps in the wet, but we can give some more time if you want.
Again, you know, Pachito short on mileage in pretty grim conditions. But,
yeah.
but you also need the experienced driver to give some feedback, don't you?
You know, if you're sat in the car, that you've got 2 emotions. You're like, we're almost done for the evening. I could go out and run round and make a mistake and put the car on the wall and look like a real idiot. Or I could just sit back and go, no, I don't need to get, it's fine, I don't need to get in the car. I will sort it, and I think like that as well. I'll sort it out in the race. I'll step up in the race and I'll do it then. And you know, it's a very different situation going out in qualifying when there's nothing to gain now. You won't go any faster, and in the race, you know, it's a different mindset. So you know you have to do the job, and you get on and do the job. So, yeah, strictly speaking, you're right. They should be out.
We expect the rain to increase in the next 10 minutes. We expect the rain to increase in the next 10 minutes. I'll keep you informed.
Now, again, from Rebellion's point of view, Andre Lotterer driven 1 races in the rain, not in this car. Have they run this car in the rain? No. Have they raced it in the rain? No. You've got to know before you go into a race. And you've got to know in drizzle, and actually, for all the people with new cars and all the new teams, it would have been better to have 1 dry day and 1 day that was intermittent drizzle, rain and everything, like today was supposed to be forecast to be. You know, a few days ago, this was going to be, a vile day. But then, if you get into it, okay, and then if you have a wet qualifying, you get into a race and there's not a spot of rain, whatever. But if you don't run when it's wet in qualifying, and then it's wet in the race, where do you go? What's your setup sheet? It's a blank piece of A4 with "if it's wet, we ... written at the top.
Yeah. I wonder if Audi and Porsche were here. I think they would be out.
Damn right.
Yeah, they'd be out running right now, wouldn't they?
Yeah. You know, and Rebellion have got, I'm not sure how much wet testing they've done, but it ain't a lot. They haven't raced this car more than once anyway, so they've only raced it at Spa. It wasn't raining. So they need to know these things. And actually, it doesn't matter if you raced it at Spa and it was downpour and it was Silverstone it was downpour, because they're Grand Prix tracks. And this isn't. This is half public highway. You know what a difference that means.
Oh, it's massive. It's massive, yeah. The surface of the track is completely different. It's usually a lot slippier.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a normal Grand Prix circuit, that's a high grip tarmac surface.
Yeah.
You go into the public road and it's not anymore.
That's it. You know, Silverstone is built to absorb lots of water before it fills up and floods. This isn't. It's built to take trucks and cars, not racing cars. So it's...
I was gonna say just that, honestly, with my experience, I never had rain in Le Mans, and I guess this is one of the few tracks you can have heavy rain in one place and dry in the other.
Yeah, well, there's the conversation Memo has. You could see Paul-Luc Chatin listening intently. And again, you know, with Memo, he's the guy that's got sports car racing experience on both sides of the Atlantic. You know, he's your kind of go-to in that team for where should we be going with this? What do you think? And he clearly decided that it wasn't worth going out on intermediates.
But also, until we know what time the TDS car set its quickest lap, they could be sitting on a pole position at the minute, could the IDEC team, so...
Well, yeah, but either way, whether they go out or they don't go out, they're not going out to improve their time. They're going out to improve their knowledge base. Yeah. You know, this is no longer about qualifying. This is about practicing for the race and working out.
Really early braking there wasn't there?
Yeah, working out how long you can survive with a slick. What it means if you're on a slick and you're 2 laps into an 8 or 9 or 10 lap stint, and you get drizzle, because you're going to have to survive it. You know, you don't put up. Think of that Monaco Grand Prix that got red flagged because you know, right close to the end, and then Sebastian Vettel, whose tyres were down to the canvas, then got fresh tyres and everybody went off and everything. He would never have driven in qualifying or practice with tyres that he had to stay on in the race. And it's the same deal. As soon as the race is here, you've got to survive somehow, if at all humanly possible. But now it's about learning what that survival is and what it entails.
Yellow at Marshall Point 11, which is the first chicane.
Ah, okay, well, Matt Griffin in the Clearwater Racing Ferrari is on an out lap. Both Toyotas are on out laps.
You can see one of them though. This is Alonso here.
The Rebellion #1 car is Andre Lotterer.
You're right, it's a 61 car in the gravel.
And Tom Dillman and the two United Autosports cars. It's one of 7 cars. There are only 7 cars on the track, and it is, unfortunately, Matt Griffin. So I wonder whether they sent him out on a non-grooved tyre.
But the first chicane is still relatively dry compared to Mulsanne, so...
Well, we're heading to it now, aren't we? So this is it. We're going to see where... He's in the gravel trap somewhere.
But don't forget, when Fernando was getting ready to go out, they were telling him there's a little bit of increasing rain at Mulsanne, but both chicanes are still slippery. So now...
He's head on, look there, straight on.
He's just...
Yeah,
well,
he's lost it in the brakes.
Yeah, looped it round, a half spin under braking, and he skated off into the gravel. Because, of course, the other thing that happens is you slide further than you would on a dry track because there's less friction. So you go in deeper under braking, the back breaks away easier, and then it skates further across sideways and into the gravel.
We will go now on the inter tires. There's a slight drizzle in a couple places, and we expect a bit of increase in the next couple of minutes. And we think the inters should be a good tires now for this position. Okay, copy.
Okay, now, this is his outlap. I wonder if that was while he was in the pits and they were telling him. So he's on an inter, because he looks a lot more confident, doesn't he, than he did on the previous lap. And
it'll still take a lap or two for him to really find his feet.
Yeah.
I'm just staggered how much earlier and how slow they are into that Mulsanne corner from when we were seeing them on bone dry, kind of all-out attack.
Well, there's the Clearwater Racing Ferrari garage. Unfortunately, they're aware that it's their car that's gone off. So that car shown as stopped on the circuit and might not do any more running for 24 minutes. Not sure too many other cars are going out either. And he said if Audi and Porsche were here, they'd be running. Well, Porsche have got 4 cars here. They're not running any of them. Jimmy Bruni's hiding. Doesn't want to be seen in the car. What's he doing? Obviously working on something else. Jimmy Bruni is obviously up to something sitting in the car. He's got no helmet or hands device on. And again, look,
checking some things.
Look there on the wall above the engineer's head, not just the fake brickwork and everything, but that nice little Porsche 70 logo. That's on the front splitter of all 4 Porsches, no matter what their livery is. That's the official logo of Porsche's 70th birthday. Well, the Rebellion now parked. Andre Lotter back in. That car will start 4th behind the sister car number 3, which Gustavo Menezes brought in. Mike Conway, you just saw on his outlap. Fernando Alonso on his outlap. I'm sure both are on inters.
Conway wanted to do a couple of laps, he said, didn't he?
Yeah.
In these conditions, it's interesting. Alonso's coming back in.
Yeah.
Straight back in. But
well, maybe that radio message wasn't before they sent him out of the pits then. Maybe. Now, you know.
I'd be surprised if they had sent him on slicks, though.
I'm not a race director, I mean a team director for a very good reason, but why did they not send him straight out on inters?
Well, let's see what they're going to do now.
It's on slicks.
It's on slicks.
Or is it the Michelin Slick Immediate?
Yeah, they're changing tyre, yeah.
Fernando Alonso is in the pit lane. And now he's on fully grooved. Okay,
slicks,
so he was, well, no, he was on inters because they have that non-grooved Slick Immediate, don't they, Michelin? So now he's on the wets. So it did have the white square on the side. Now it's on the wets. And those are brand new, unrun in. And you know, that's another element, is that he's scrubbing in a set of wets.
Plus, shouldn't be too much of an issue, though.
But plus getting the feel. You say that, and then you say on his outlap he won't have much feel in the intermediate. But it doesn't matter if he hasn't scrubbed the wets in. Go on, racing drivers, make your mind up.
Also,
you have to build up.
Yes.
But I don't think the tyre issue, you know, those tyres are pretty much ready to run straight away.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've just paid for another set of tyres.
Yep. Manufacturers love inters.
Yeah.
All right, so, you know, now very little rain falling anywhere. But again, you know, he's gone in broadly the same conditions, slick, intermediate, full wet. So you're back to back to backing. You know, this is perfect testing conditions. If you could keep a certain water level and then send him out in a test day, 3 laps on this, 3 laps on that, 3 laps on that. Then he can calibrate all that stuff in his head. You know, I'm saying perfect test conditions, and everybody else is polishing their headlamps on a car that when they arrive at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, they're immediately going to start disassembling. What?
These cars were in pieces when we walked down the pit lane the other day before they'd done anything. And as you say, they've rebuilt them. They'll take them all to pieces again and they'll rebuild them.
Yeah, it'll be a daily, nightly task. You know, we see these guys on camera in the pit lane for sort of 4 or 5, 6 hours a day. They're here for 18, or at least 12-hour days. And you know, actually, I was, again, talking to some of the Ford guys. The Ford USA Chip Ganassi guys have already been here for 3 weeks, because they came here 3 or 4 days, 4 or 5 days before the test day. So they sort of left home Monday, the week of the test, which was a fortnight ago. So they're away for a month, pretty much. You know, the IndyCar drivers went back, raced in Texas on Saturday. Thank you very much for reminding me that, rather than Sunday. Of course, it was Saturday. But nevertheless, you know, there they have to change time zones again and change time zones to come back. And again, you know, recalibrate their head to an IndyCar race in a shorter oval like Texas, and then come back and recalibrate to Le Mans. So it's not, that's not exactly a rest.
Do you think
they didn't go home either?
Do you think, though, they're super fit, they travel in business class, first class? Is the time zone thing now for these super duper athletes? Is it a thing now?
It depends how long they were here and how they won't have been completely acclimatized or acclimated to European time. And so actually going back to Texas is quite a long way west as well. So you're not on Eastern, you're on sort of mountain summertime.
You know, at the end of the day, it's different for everyone. Some people can adapt to it quickly and others not so quickly. But at the end of the day, when you get your helmet on and you're sitting in that car, there's no feeling tired. You know,
No.
You've got your head in
But it's
gear.
the other bits all around it. It's when you're not in the car. That's when all the tiredness comes in. So what would have been worse is if they'd had to race in Malaysia and come back.
Yeah. When I was doing the commute to Japan, 15, 16 times a year, I sort of gave up with times anymore. I just slept when I felt like sleeping, and when I was awake and I'd watch films or whatever.
The secret apparently is food. The secret to everything is food.
Just eat a lot of food.
No, eat at the meal times of your newly acquired time zone, and that is more likely to acclimatise your brain than sleeping at or trying to sleep at the bedtimes of the zone you're in.
And I find also that if you keep moving, then you can stay awake. But as soon as you sit down, I remember sitting, you know, these boxes at the back of Suzuka circuit. Each team's got one. We've done practice. You go and sit down for a minute, and you're like, your head starts nodding, and you're out.
Sit down. Just rest my legs for 2 minutes. 2 hours later, they wake you up and say, "Right, we're off home now."
Yeah, and you're all groggy, and you're like, "Ah, no, I know. I've just wrecked the night for myself."
Exactly. I'll now be awake at 1 a.m.
2 a.m. 3 a.m.
Just looking at the clock. Yeah, the same as when you set a 3:30 alarm call for your plane. You go to bed at 10:30 and you're still awake at 1:30 going, I've got an hour and 45 minutes before the alarm goes off. I really would like to go to sleep now. So let's this is making life very easy for our TV director, because there are precisely 1, 2, 3, 4 cars on track. However, our cameras are only covering a mile of that track, and therefore it goes quite quiet, quite a long time.
Can you update on the track conditions? Yes, same as before, very simply. Not too much water on the track. Fernando, try brake balance position 4, brake balance position 4. The other guy is with the same tires. Can you give me some reference? Okay, copy, Fernando. I will give you reference as soon as I got it.
So this is a private test session for Fernando Alonso, basically. The whole Toyota team is... I mean, it's... that didn't really come out the way it left me. I don't think it got to you the same way. He is making every possible use of being able to be in the car in these conditions, to learn. Because the one thing we know he can do is race. the one thing he knows he hasn't got is knowledge of Le Mans, the weather, the conditions, and how everything changes. His knowledge base, again, is that blank piece of A4. You know, he's done the simulator test, he's done the rookie test, he's driven here in test day, that's it. He's got nothing to go on beyond that. And that's a very exposed position for such a professional racing driver to put himself into. You know, make no bones about it. It's a very good team, it's a very good car, it's a very good bet to win a race, but he is exposing himself so much, and Jensen exactly the same, you know, and Montoya and all these guys who come here with a huge back catalogue of hits, and they go and suddenly release a country and western album. You know, this is a hugely different thing that he's doing, and it's hard to overstate how much different it is when it goes away from being dry and fast. When it goes into all the slippery, nasty, slimy that Le Mans is so famous for over the years, that's where his knowledge base has got to be built up. Well, it's very quiet down in the pit lane. This might be an opportunity to hear from Louise Beckett, and she might actually be able to get somebody to talk to her as well.
No, it's just me on my own. But I have been speaking to the Porsche guys and saying, why is nobody going out? Why are you not using this time? They said it's done. We don't want to risk it in the rain. And especially when you think about it, all the incidents that have happened today, maybe.
Well, perversely, now the weather's worse, nobody's going off.
That's because there's only 4 people on track.
Exactly what I was just about to say.
And they're all going quite slowly, if we're honest.
What, they're driving to their limits? Well, if only everybody had done that earlier, we'd have far fewer things in our health and safety book. Thank you, Louise. The good news is you've only got 15 minutes of nothing happening to put up with now before they break out the newspaper headlines. I'm sure Toyota number 8 crew are probably waiting for Fernando to come in so they can get the nice paper shot for tomorrow. Change of driver. See now, United Autosports, never been here before, so they're doing what I think I would be doing. They've now brought the number 22 car in, handed over to Phil Hansen. Phil Hansen's never driven here before. United Autosports never been here before, so they've got no experience together in the rain. He's going out and doing laps in the rain. G-Drive is sending out their number 40 car with Jose Gutierrez in. And Will Owen has gone out in the 32 United Autosports car. So United Autosports have cycled their drivers through in the dark to get them qualified. They're now trying to cycle them through in the damp to give them experience. It's exactly what I'd want to be doing.
I'm just going to say, because I'm a rookie at Le Mans, but weren't United Autosports here last year? And they finished 4th at LMP2. I only know that because they're from the north of England, and that's where I'm from. So
you're right. No,
that's okay. I was thinking I was another team that I didn't know about, and I was like, oh, maybe I was wrong. But
no.
What about if Louise? I'm not sure. I mean, she's obviously always busy, but would she be able to find out from somewhere? Would she be able to find out from somewhere what time the TDS Racing 28 car set its pole lap? Because they're going to lose all of their times.
No.
Oh, do you know that?
I know exactly how to find out.
Oh, he knows exactly how to find out. Here we go.
Exactly how to find out.
Okay, well, you can still go, Louise, if you really want to, but apparently Martin knows how to find out.
I do. Pippa, okay. I'm coming your way.
Right, okay. Because they're going to lose all their laps from 22.15, like earlier. Anything up to 22.15, they will lose their laps. Did they said? Yes, before 22.15 they will lose all of their laps because they didn't stop at the scrutineering bay. So we'll be just keen or interested to see. Oh, here we go.
I would have thought
it would have changed.
That penalty having been announced, it would have changed. They would have readjusted the timing screen. I'm not sure that that's possible, but I would have thought that it might be. But I don't know.
Have you found out when they set the time yet?
No, but I have asked the question.
Okay.
Because I know somebody who's running all the software. Aston Martin aren't doing anything.
So the 88 Dempsey Proton Racing AM category car leader, which we saw spun and in the gravel, has not come back. That is still parked there. They have 0.6 of a second advantage over the Gulf Racing, which should not get beaten in these weather conditions now. And this is Conway coming back in. Now we know if the last message is going to be carried out, Mike Conway will swap drivers and Lopez will get in to give him about 10 minutes by the time they swap it around in these conditions.
Yeah. And what you need to do is do a fast change, send him out on the tyres they're on.
Which are wet.
Yeah. No point putting fresh ones on. Fast change, as if it's the race, comes in, takes over. Mike's done half a stint on the tyres, and then bing, in comes the car, and Lopez takes over. Louis saying in our headset that she thinks TDS Racing have lost their pole position time. I'm waiting to see if my lady with the timing data logging can confirm or deny.
Okay, Lopez is in the car. While you do that, Lopez is in and he's heading out of pit road. He's got 10.5 minutes, so 3 laps in total. He might get a 4th depending on whether he crosses the line. We've had a couple of people cross the line twice in sessions so far this weekend.
I think he'll definitely have had that little briefing, and we might even hear it on the radio. No risk, no risk. I'm sure that's been said to him. Just go out there, feel the conditions, don't take any big risks. There's nothing to gain, but just get that feeling for the car in the rain on this circuit, because it might well rain Saturday or Sunday or both.
This car has done 77 laps in total. The sister car 74. There is nothing else anywhere near them. They have just kept going round and round and round.
Yeah, getting data, more and more data. Yeah, bearing in mind, as Martin has talked about, these cars will be stripped right back. New components put on for the start of the race. They've got the whole day tomorrow to do that. The last thing they want now, though, is any of their drivers to throw the car off and put it in the wall.
Yeah, but that's the case in the race as well. It's the case in qualifying. That's why you hire the best that you can hire. As soon as you leave the pit, the team have put their baby in your hands.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. And it's, and you've got the same thing on Saturday when you're in the race with Chris Harris, is that as soon as you hand the car over to him or he hands it over to you, that's it. There's now nothing you can do. You can just wait until whatever happens, happens. Looks like Alex Sims is getting ready to go out in the 82 BMW.
Likewise, there's a lot of trust from the driver. In fact, you don't really even think about it, but there's a lot of trust saying...
He listening to a bit of Eurasia. He's definitely listening to music, isn't he? They're piping something through to him. Got a bit of a shoulder shimmy going on there. I hate to say it, Alex, there's a bit of dad dancing going on there. A bit of chair dancing.
Old beyond his years.
Talk to us about the colours there on the brake disc. Why have they got colours on the brake discs?
Well, that's those colours. It's like heat paint. So as the brakes heat up and go hotter and hotter, as the discs get hotter under braking. Oh, is that Lopez running slightly wide there? Alonso. Yeah. The brakes change colour, so they have different colours painted on there, and so they want to know exactly how hot during driving the brakes get under heavy braking.
It works as a telltale system, doesn't it? The paint changes colour within a certain temperature zone, so depending on how many colours have changed, you can tell how hot they've got. Yeah. So it's a very easy visual clue. If it should have red and orange bars, if it's only got an orange bar left, you know when you're changing tyres it's got too hot. Let's have a quick word with Louise Beckett. You've been down trying to ferret out who's currently our fastest car in LMP2.
Well, it's not TDS, unfortunately. Their lap time has been disqualified, wiped out, and it was Loic in the car, which I've just been speaking to Francois. He was in good spirits about it, but unfortunately Loic is a bit fed up, which is completely understandable. However, as Francois said, it's all about tomorrow.
All right, excellent. I am being...
Fernando, can you update on track conditions? Can you update on track conditions? think we are okay now with the tires. Okay, copy that, copy. Do you think we can come back on Inters? Do you think we can come back on Inters? No, not at this point.
What did he say? No,
no, not at this point. So
okay.
you see, but that's great because now he can give them the answers. You know, from his feeling. No, I know what an Inter feels like, and it feels nasty, frankly, and it feels like the car's not your friend, and you can't have that in this race. Bear in mind, he doesn't think it's Inter's, and he's not zigzagging through 59 other slow cars or 58 other slow cars.
Yeah.
There's no spray. This is the most perfect he will ever find this racetrack. He will never again, if he comes back now until he's 92, drive on this track for more than one lap with nothing in front and nothing behind.
Yeah, a 40G drive, he might come across that because it's travelling slowly, approaching Marshall point 22,
right,
which
Jules,
is out of Mulsanne.
Tell me when that penalty said the times were deleted from.
22:15 I wrote down.
Right, they set their time, I'm told, 40 minutes into the session at 22:10.
So yeah, so that's it, it goes.
Yeah.
Up to 22:15, yeah.
So everything before the penalty, everything
and
before...
there was another team as well, which I think was the 88 car.
Yeah.
But they were at a different time, they were 9
No,
something.
it was 54 Spirit of Race, I think.
Sorry.
But again, that's not a pole position, you know, and that's the big bragging rights. The upside for Mathieu Vazevière is that they know they've got a car that's as quick as anything else out there. All right, they might not be starting 11th, they'll be starting 12th. So it's which side of the grid you're on, basically.
That was the question I was going to ask. When their time gets deleted, do they lose everything, or is it just it goes back to what they were before?
In this session up to that time. Yeah, because whatever happened last night wasn't penalised. So
last night they did.
So TDS Racing, they were
second last night.
On A, what time?
Oh, we got a piece of paper here that Peter's just pointed out to me. That's free practice.
QP1, TDS set a 3:25.24, which will leave them behind G Drive, which will make them fourth. So instead of being first, they'll be fourth. Okay, you're in a position where you've still got a car that's as quick as anything else out there. Yeah, okay. Unfortunate, not the end of the world.
Yeah. It's more at this moment in time, as Louise has already said, there's a load of journalists outside the Toyota garage waiting to take the photographs. They won't have their photographs, will TDS, and they won't have the prestige all day tomorrow on their day off of saying we're sat on pole position. But it's all about Saturday and Sunday.
Which is actually a little bit unfortunate, not just for Loïc Duval, who's French, but also for TDS Racing, who are French. So Sarah and Simon Abadi, who kind of run the engineering side of the team, I think they'll be, disappointed. It's one of those things. Disappointed, yeah. And it was, you know, it's a silly driver thing, not stopping for the weighbridge when you're asked to stop for the weighbridge. Now that's when everybody came flooding into the pits.
Yeah, your pace is very good at this moment. Pace is very good. Car7 just changed to Jose. I will update you shortly. You are around 1 second quicker in sector 1, 7/10 sector 2.
So Alonso quicker than Lopez, but Alonso's been out on this track for quite a while longer. It'd be on different tyres, but he's been out on that track longer than Lopez.
And it's interesting, isn't it? It's not the long-term regulars. It's not Conway and Kobayashi, and it's not Buemi and Nakajima who are doing the laps. It's Pachito and Nando, you know, it's the new boys. All right, Pachito did last year, but that means he's done 1 Le Mans, and Nando's done none. So there is our GTE Pro class pole sitting team, the 91 Porsche. In the centre, Jimmy Bruni. And still not telling anybody where that 2.5 seconds came from. Fred Macco closest to us, Richard Leitz on the far side. In the veteran-looking garage. Have to say, actually, the pit garages at Le Mans never had bricks on the inside. If you've ever been down to the Piste Alain Prost, to the old garages, it was basically breeze block.
Don't be pedantic.
Yeah.
No, I know, and it looks lovely, and also out the back it doesn't smell of wee, so you know it's not.
Well, the current ones are made of breeze block. Look at the top of there. So
exactly so. And there you go, TDS Racing. I'm afraid not going to be our pole sitters. Last night they were second quickest, but Dragon Speed have gone into the 3-minute 24s, and the Panis Barter G-Drive rather also a 3:25.1, which is quicker than TDS did last night, unless TDS have done a slightly faster lap tonight. And I can't tell you, but what we do know is that they've lost the lap that put them into pole position.
from the tyre point of view, it's interesting to see. I mean, obviously we've got, you know, some areas that are quite wet, and other areas like the Porsche curves, it looked like there was no rain at all in the Porsche curves. And the tyres look like they're holding on really well. I could see a little bit of movement last lap round on the Porsche curves, but yeah, in general, those tyres look, you know, the development of that. Maybe they're at the stage where they don't need intermediates. Maybe it's just a case of we can run slicks, and if it starts raining, we can go straight to wets and be safer, and they don't chunk up and, you know, tear to bits.
Be interesting actually to just trying to find my remote control to turn this wretched telly on at the end that keeps turning itself off, that we had like to have all the data on, and try and figure out what the track temperature is now, because it was down to about 17 degrees earlier, I think.
Yeah, look at his screen there. He's just coming into Porsche now, and it's, yeah, a little bit of rain, but not anywhere near as bad as Mulsanne.
Yeah. Well, checker flag is out. He will take it this time round, so the photographers will have to wait another 4 or 5 minutes for him to reappear.
Unless he...
No, do every lap you can. Do every lap you can. Yeah, box this lap. No, I'm going to take your checker flag. I want to do another lap. Because you can't get enough experience when you've never done this before. There you go.
But we'll come into the pits.
Don't come into the pits.
He wants to get to bed.
He's done enough laps. He's all right.
He wants to win this race. He doesn't want to go. He wants to win Le Mans.
Yeah, you can see the tyre now. It's in pretty good shape.
Good as gold. Good as gold. Is there a Corvette out? There is. Antonio Garcia went out just before the checkered flag came out and has just come into the pits. Now, see, I don't understand why nobody went out, but I really have no clue why he went for an installation lap at the last minute. What was that about?
Oh, yeah. Who knows?
I know.
Yeah, that's...
I'd never second-guess Doug Feehan.
Now, you said last night when Nakajima was parked in the car, there was all those journalists around, you said, if it was a Spaniard sat in that car, there'd be even more journalists waiting around. Well, there is, and look at them, there's loads of them.
I don't, that's only like 5 or 6 times the number.
Yeah, exactly.
7 or 8.
Look at them all.
And actually, without being, you know, facetious in any way, now it is pole position.
Yeah.
And so now they do want the photo, and Toyota want the photo as well. They want the photo with all 3 drivers, like we just saw with the Porsche drivers, smiling, happy, pole sitters. That's your Friday morning front page story in Le Mans, the local newspaper here. And you never know, it may well be all splashed over the news bulletins in the morning and the sports news pages and everything else, because it is a big deal. Last time we had 2 Formula 1 world champions in the field was a long time ago. And to have current Grand Prix drivers racing at Le Mans is unusual. The last time a current Grand Prix driver raced at Le Mans on his weekend off was Nico Hulkenberg. Yeah. One and done. Won it, left. So do you know what? You know, the portents aren't bad. And one thing we know about Fernando Alonso is he's a man who hates to lose.
The time has been corrected now. IDEC Sport has gone in there at the top with Dragon Speed.
Yeah, IDEC, Dragon Speed, and G-Drive are the top 3, so that TDS time from yesterday is still their best time. They didn't set a quicker time after they were penalised this evening.
IDEX Sport just going slightly quicker in this session than they did yesterday.
Yeah. Because they got close again, didn't they, to get back ahead of Dragon Speed and G-Drive, because at one stage they'd been pushed down to 4th, then they jumped up to 2nd. Well, there is Kaz Nakajima and Sebastian Buemi. They are waiting for their teammate to arrive for the photos. They may not be the only people waiting for the photos. So Fernando Alonso, Kazuki Nakajima and Sebastian Buemi will lead a Toyota 1-2 on the grid for the 86th running of Le Mans 24 Hours. And the vital thing in the last 30 minutes for Fernando was not a final shot at goal, not a last chance saloon, you know, blast for pole position. It was vital miles on all 3 tyre types in drizzly and wet conditions, and that may make a huge difference on Saturday and Sunday. Might not, might never rain at all, might be inconsequential, he might be asleep when it happens. But having at least some knowledge of what goes on, Peter, that's got to make him feel a little happier now that he's had at least
Alonso acknowledging, acknowledging, and now Buemi, who actually did the time.
Yeah.
Because as you said, it's all going to be about Alonso, but it was actually Nakajima who put the time in.
Yeah, and the great thing for Kaz is they all know it. Everyone knows it, he knows it. You know, and there's the front page of Le Mans, the local newspaper, mocked up with Toyota and Fernando Alonso on pole. And for sure, it's, you know, it is about Toyota, it's about the whole team, it's about years of trying, you know, 2 decades worth of attempts and more, years and years of trying to win this race. But for the greater public, Fernando Alonso is a big hook on which to hang the Le Mans story. You know, if you talk to people about bobsleigh and they look at you blankly and you say cool runnings, they will go, oh, right. And if you talk to people at Le Mans, if you mention Steve McQueen Le Mans, then a lot more people know what you're talking about because of the fill. You know, and it can't possibly be bad for the sport to have the likes of Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button involved in this race. A rising tide floats all boats. All exposure in the greater public is better for this race, is better for this championship, is better for sports car
Certainly
racing.
at a time when there's fewer manufacturers in the P1 class. We're down to 1 manufacturer from 3,
there are
4.
fewer young audience members getting into watching motor racing overall and sports car racing. To have that different audience looking at it is great for the sport.
Well, just look at what Alonso did for Indy 500 last year. How many people just watched him in testing and in qualifying? And then how many people will watch Le Mans, who new to Le Mans because of Fernando Alonso? So there is a huge effect. He's aware of what's going on. We're just running through our class pole times. Remember, this one was done on the first lap yesterday. And no one's got near it. Still 1.5 seconds, only 1.6 seconds.
And the 88 car Dempsey Proton are GCE AM class pole sitters. So they will start at the head of a 13-car AM class field. The 91 Porsche with 16 rivals behind it, including right behind their sister car. In LMP2, IDEX Sport are leading a 21-car LMP2 field. And it is Toyota 1-2 in LMP1, and behind them Rebellion, the #1 car, in 3rd, and SMP Racing's #17 car starts in 4th position. Pascal Vasselin, do you know, they've had a lot of pole positions here. They've had a lot of near misses here. They've had so much heartbreak here.
Step 1 taken again. But they've got another 9 steps to go.
All you can do is come back. Actually, somebody came up with the expression again, which I really relate to, and which echoes a lot today. He said, if Le Mans chooses you, then you can win it. And that, you know, I always say the first thing you've got to do is survive Le Mans. But if Le Mans chooses you, that is a great phrase. And so far, you know, Le Mans has not chosen Toyota. And this, you know, this first of 2 Le Mans races this super season could well be the biggest day that they've ever had racing here.
Yeah.
So, you know, we all know the last lap drama of a couple of years ago, and I can't take another one of those. I don't know about them, but I can't take another one. I don't think any of us can take another one of those.
They definitely can't take another one of those, can they? So,
well,
just running down the leaderboards there, which we touched on before.
There is our field.
Without almost any experience today, but anyway, the lap was great. The car setup was almost perfect for me, and I had no traffic, which was very lucky, so I'm quite happy at the moment. But yeah, we know what counts is a race result, so now we have been preparing a lot for the race anyway, and I'm quite happy with our preparation, so let's hope everything goes well in the race.
Let's hope so. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Louise Beckett with our pole-earning driver, Kazuki Nakajima. The number 8 Toyota starts on pole in LMP1. IDEX Sport, the number 48 car, on pole in LMP2. That crew, the 91 Porsche team, start on pole in GTE Pro. And the GTE AM class is also a Porsche affair. In fact, the top 3 in AM are Porsches. 88 Dempsey Proton car on pole ahead of the Gulf Racing car and the second 77 Dempsey Proton car.
You know, looking at GT, I'm thinking there's going to be a little bit of work going on behind the scenes with the likes of Aston Martin, with Corvette.
Yeah.
Kind of, well, trying to make the car quicker for a start, but I think there's going to be some BOP changes come race day. I can't see how they can be so far behind and they let that lie like that.
Well, that is it for qualifying here at Le Mans. We'll be on air on Saturday morning with morning warm-up. We'll see you then.